Chapter 299. The two hammers had completely covered Zhuxiaoduo's body as they spun at high speed. What he needed to do was to follow his usual training and perform his usual hammering skills. That was all. Once the hammering skills were performed, there would be a natural inertia. Moreover, this inertia would only get stronger and stronger because the hammers were too heavy. What Zhuxiaoduo needed to do was to maximize the control of this huge inertia. With the momentum of an indestructible whirlwind, he attacked powerfully and wiped out the enemies. Among the hammering skills left behind by Blind Hong, Zhuxiaoduo had yet to finish two moves of the first hammering skill, hammer. However, the whirlwind created by the two hammers had already enveloped a radius of 15 zhang. No matter what weapon it was, as long as it collided with the hammers, even if it didn't shatter, it would be blown away. There wouldn't be a better result. The third move was smashed out like a ghost crying and a god howling. The originally airtight encirclement had been reduced by half in the blink of an eye following the descent of Zhuxiaoduo's sledgehammer. A total of 30 people were turned into flying men by Zhuxiaoduo's hands. Then, they all disintegrated in the air and turned into flying fireworks, decorating the snowy night sky. Mace, glaive, two-handed sword, all the so-called heavy weapons of the Umno alliance were unable to withstand a single blow from the hammers. Each and every one of them was as fragile as grass, so fragile that it was unbelievable. The whirlwind rose from the ground and continued to sweep in all directions. Puff, 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 puff. More than 10 people were directly swept into the whirlwind and turned into blood and powder. The 7 innate experts who didn't participate in the siege were all swept in by Zhuxiaoduo's hammering wind and were smashed into a bloody mess. It was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. When the 7th move of the hammering skill was performed, there were only 3 people left who could still fight. These 3 people's faces were filled with fear and despair. More than 100 of them had joined hands to hunt down this brat, but now there were only 3 people left. Moreover, the 3 people who were lucky enough to survive were not because they were strong, but because of the direction. Zhuxiaoduo had not reached here yet. As long as Zhuxiaoduo reached here. With a woo sound, the direction of the hammer's wind changed again. It was still an earth-shattering power, sweeping up the snowflakes within a radius of tens of meters, and madly sweeping towards this side. Even though he was still 7 to 8 meters away, he could already feel that tyrannical aura. It was still irresistible, and anyone who touched it would die. Stop him! The leader shouted, but he himself turned around and ran. This kind of power was not something that he or the other 2 survivors could withstand. The mission to kill Zhuxiaoduo had completely failed. The most important thing now was whether or not he could escape. The other 2 were ready to fight with their lives on the line, but they saw their leader running away by himself. Before they could even feel the anger in their hearts, Iron Hammer Whirlwind was already in front of them. A woo sound rang out beside their ears. 2 screams were heard, and the 2 of them followed in the footsteps of their companions, turning into flying people. Halfway through the air, they changed again, and turned into minced meat flying in the air, dead people in the air. Zhuxiaoduo's hammer had succeeded. Seeing that the leader had already escaped more than 10 meters away, he roared loudly, and his body was lifted off the ground by the strong inertia of the 2 sledgehammers, rising 3 meters into the air. One of the sledgehammers left his hand, and with a thunderous force, it flew out with a woo sound. The sledgehammer powerfully broke through the wind and snow. The 2000 gene sledgehammer was like a demon that suddenly flew out from hell, chasing in the direction of the leader's escape like a meteor chasing after the moon. Under the guidance of the huge inertia, the speed of the sledgehammer was even faster than the speed of light. In the small gap just now, the leader had used his fastest movement speed, and by now he had already run nearly 20 meters away. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he heard the soul-stirring sound of the wind behind him. He hurriedly looked back, and saw a huge sledgehammer rapidly growing in front of his eyes. No! He screamed, and despair surged on his face. The sledgehammer had already smashed into his lower back like lightning. With a boom, the leader's body, unable to withstand such a huge force, directly turned into a brilliant blood-colored firework. completely disintegrated. After the sledgehammer smashed the enemy, its momentum did not change, and it continued to fly forward like a hot knife through butter. In one breath, it flew out 2,000 meters, and broke a large tree. Only then did it reluctantly stop and stay in the snow. After throwing the sledgehammer, Zhuoxiaoduo's body was carried by the inertia of the remaining sledgehammer, and his body spun more than 100 times before it came to a stop. "Damn, you're making me dizzy." Then he rushed through the wind and snow, and with a wave of his hand, the sledgehammer was put back into the space ring. Zhuoxiaoduo, who had annihilated more than 100 of the Wizard Alliance's attacking forces, was slightly relieved. He suddenly realized that his shoulders didn't seem to belong to him anymore. He couldn't even feel any pain. He was completely numb. Damn it. It's still too heavy. The inertia is too great. Zhuoxiaoduo grimaced. The hammer technique relied on inertia to hurt the enemy, and the hammer technique left by Blind Hong made use of inertia to the extreme. Once the hammer was swung, the inertia would form, and even the hammer user himself would not be able to control it. The hammer of the mad demon was well deserved. Counting those who appeared, none of them should have escaped. This wave, there are no survivors. What a pity, what a pity. Zhuoxiaoduo did not have much joy on his face. Instead, he was flustered and exasperated. These bastards, they really don't know any better. You should have stood still, lined up, and let Master Zhuo's dragon blood flying dagger stab you one by one. They really don't know any better. They can't even die, let alone live. This is so infuriating. Hey, there's still a ring. Zhuoxiaoduo kept the leader's ring, then went back to clean up the battlefield. His heart ached so much that he could not breathe. So many people, so many Origin Elixir Realm and Embryonic Breathing Realm practitioners, but none of them were absorbed by the dragon blood flying dagger. My heart aches. More than 100 people, but only 17 space rings were found. The rest were all smashed by the big hammer. What a waste. This is so heartbreaking. Zhuoxiaoduo felt that his heart ached so much that he was about to suffocate. It was not because the harvest was so little, but because he thought of a problem. In the future, when we face enemies, I'm afraid that most of the situations will be like this. Most of the enemy's space equipment will be smashed by the 99 cat hammer. This loss is simply too great. It's incalculable. Zhuoxiaoduo was very sad, but he also felt very helpless. Why the hell did I choose this thing as a weapon? There must be something wrong with my brain. How much less money will I earn like this? Everyone else has looted, but here I have a pile of broken pieces. This hammer, once it starts moving, it really can't be stopped. It's really... Zhuoxiaoduo sighed and moaned. He lamented for the time it took to drink a cup of tea. After collecting all the loot, he took a step forward again. In the heavy snow that did not seem to let up, he leaped all the way back to Phoenix Head. It's 9:30. Zhuoxiaoduo thought to himself as he ran. A gust of cool air descended from the sky. His luck points had increased by 4.5 drops. His whole body suddenly felt so comfortable that he wanted to moan. All the injuries and numbness were instantly swept away. There were so many people, and I only gave 4 drops. I'm simply too stingy. I'm enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens, and I'm so good at foresight. I said there was a danger to my life, and they all died. I should have given 100 drops. Too little, too little. On Phoenix Head, He Yuanyue was wrapped in a thick fur coat, and even the wheelchair was covered with a thick quilt. The fur coat was fiery red, and it was still steaming in such a snowy night. Obviously, it was a rare treasure. This is the best treasure to resist the cold, 5-tailed fire fox fur. Where did you get it? He Yuanyue asked Jiang Zhangbin, who was sitting next to her. On Phoenix Head, there were 5 people sitting together: He Yuanyue, Jiang Zhangbin, Sun Fengho, Hu Ruoyun, and Li Changjiang. I took it. Cough, cough. Jiang Zhongbin coughed, and there was a rare awkwardness in his tone. I got it from that cheap old man. It looks good, and I just got it. I was going to send it to you at the end of autumn, but I didn't expect it to snow so heavily in the summer. It can be considered to be used in advance. Everyone burst into laughter. Hu Ruoyun looked into the distance worriedly and murmured, "It's been a while since the message was sent. With Xiao Duo's current cultivation and strength, why hasn't he come yet? Could something have happened to him on the way?" Sun Fengho said, "It can't be, right? Everyone's attention is focused on the Star Martial Spirit Crystal. What could have happened here? It's snowing so heavily, and no one flew him here. He only ran here on his 2 legs. It's not surprising that he's a little slow." Li Changjiang said. "I'm just a little worried," Hu Ruoyan said. "It'll be fine." He Yuanyue closed her eyes and said, "Zhou Xiaoduo is very lucky. Even if there are some obstacles, he won't really encounter any real danger. I think he'll be here soon." While they were talking, they heard the sound of someone stepping on the snow below. In the heavy snow, Zhou Xiaoduo was not discovered until he was 20 meters away. When he finally came over, he sighed. "This heavy snow. How long has it been?" 1.5 hours. Now it's almost over my knees. What kind of weather is this?" Zhou Xiaoduo complained as he walked over. "It's a hot summer, and it's snowing heavily. Is this a rare thing?" Chapter 300. He Yuanyue smiled faintly and said, "This can be considered a rare thing, but it's too much to talk about the creation of the world. The Phoenix Vein in Phoenix City is occupied by an ice phoenix. The birth of the ice phoenix is accompanied by cold weather. Even if it's a hot summer, as long as the ice phoenix is born, it's normal for the sky to be covered in snow. It's not surprising at all." Ice phoenix. Zhou Xiaoduo was lost in thought. Thinking of Zhou Xiaonian, he couldn't help but think, cat phoenix. He Yuanyue said, "Xiaoduo, come to me. I can't look at Qi now. Take a look at the Qi and tell me what you see." "Okay." Zhou Xiaoduo agreed straightforwardly and quickly walked to the front of the old principal. Sun Fengho, Jiang Zhongbin, Li Changjiang, and Hu Ruoyan were all gloomy. He Yuanyue had already said that she didn't have much time left. If she were to forcefully use the aura viewing technique now, then she was afraid that she would have to leave this world immediately after she finished reading it. She wouldn't be able to wait for the moment when the Phoenix Pulse Spirit appeared. He Yuanyue didn't want to leave this regret. Even if she died, she wanted to die after the Phoenix Pulse Spirit. Zhou Xiaoduo stood in front of He Yuanyue and looked at her. Between the heavens and the earth, there was only a vast expanse of white snow. The snowflakes were so dense that the visibility was almost zero. He really couldn't see anything. However, in the eyes of the Qi watchers, these snowflakes were completely non-existent. What they looked at was the Qi and Qi. The point of observation was never something that ordinary people could see with their naked eyes, but the general trend between heaven and earth. Even if the wind and snow were 10 times stronger, it would be difficult to have any effect. How spectacular! Zhou Xiaoduo looked and suddenly let out a heartfelt exclamation. How spectacular! He Yuanyue asked. Between heaven and earth, there's a vast expanse. There's only one ice phoenix, constantly flapping its wings. Zhou Xiaoduo said, "Now, the heaven snow and earth fire have merged into one. It's probably time for wind and thunder to rise, heavenly fire to burn, snow to dance, and Qi to soar to the heavens." He Yuanyue closed her eyes and asked indifferently, "How is the ice phoenix?" "He's very calm. He's strolling around freely," Zhou Xiaoduo said. Are you taking a walk?" He Yuanyue asked seriously. "Looking around?" "Yes." "What's the frequency of flapping?" "It's soothing and very leisurely. It's slow and unhurried." He Yuanyue was relieved. She said, to be able to be this calm and at ease, then the probability of success is higher. By the way, how is the Ice Phoenix's mental state? Is she excited? Zhou Xiaoduo looked at him carefully and said, well, he doesn't look very excited, but overall, he looks okay. Aren't you excited? He Yuanyue nodded. What time is it now? 9:57. Okay, wait a while. You can read it again at 11 o'clock to confirm the situation. Alright. Everyone waited calmly and silently prayed for the success of this game. Heavy snow continued to fall. But the frequency of the snowfall didn't change in the slightest. The entire mountain range gradually became flat after the frequent snowfall. It was almost a flat plain. The heavy snow had filled up all the ravines that could be seen. On the other 3 sides that couldn't be seen, the fire still didn't slow down because of the heavy snow. Instead, it grew fiercer and fiercer. This was because countless black liquid gushed out of the ground like a fountain and turned into a pillar of fire. If the weather was clear, they might be able to see the truth of the fire if they stood on the phoenix head. But now, the heavy snow had completely blocked their line of sight. They couldn't see any clues at all. The snow is waist-high. Jiang Zhongbin and Sun Fengho kept moving the accumulated snow around them and in front of them. They kept sighing. Phoenix City hasn't had such heavy snow for dozens of years. Now it's snowing, and it's even in summer. The sound of branches breaking under the heavy snow could be heard all around them. Everyone was still waiting quietly. As time passed little by little, it was already 10:30. He Yuanyue's complexion gradually became ugly as time passed. The redness on her face was fading bit by bit. At the side, Hu Ruoyun and the others felt as if their hearts were being stabbed by a knife. For today, she had taken countless secret medicines. She didn't care about the consequences and increased her mental strength and vitality at all costs. But now, she was losing her mental strength and vitality at a speed visible to the naked eye. Jiang Zhongbin looked at He Yuanyue worriedly. He immediately took out a box of pills from his bosom and took one out. Immediately, a fragrant smell assailed their nostrils. He begged, "Teacher, eat one." He Yuanyue turned her head with difficulty and nodded. Okay. If I don't eat it, I'm afraid I won't be able to last until midnight. I might as well waste it. As he spoke, he reached out his hand to take the pill, but he found that he couldn't raise his hand. Even if he had a rare treasure like the fire fox fur, being in such a cold environment for a long time still caused the old principal's mental strength, endurance, and vitality to slowly drain away. Right now, he didn't even have the strength to move his hand. Jiang Zhongbin took the box and said, "Teacher, you just need to open your mouth." Then He Yuanyue's eyes widened. "Jiang Zhongbin, what are you doing?" All of a sudden, Jiang Zhongbin had stuffed an entire box of 5 pills into his mouth. Hee hee. Jiang Zhongbin laughed dryly. This student made a mistake. Please punish me, teacher. He Yuanyue let out a long sigh. It's useless, Zhongbin. I'm going to die tonight. There's no luck. Jiang Zhongbin and Sun Fengho's eyes turned red at the same time. He Yuanyue closed her eyes and didn't say anything else. She was trying her best to conserve every ounce of energy she had left. It's 11 o'clock. Hu Ruoyun's voice trembled a little. He Yuanyue opened her eyes. Zhou Xiaoduo also immediately looked at where the ice phoenix was, at this moment. The Zhou family was in a rare state of devastation. Well, many of the attackers first went to Zhou Xiaoduo's house to kill Zhou Xiaoduo. But Zhou Xiaoduo wasn't there. After these people broke the window, they immediately went out to chase after Zhou Xiaoduo. But the window was broken in the end. They wouldn't close the window like Zhou Xiaoduo. So now, there was a thick layer of snow near the window of the Zhou family's house. When the clock struck 11 o'clock, in Zhou Changlu's study, a white jade rooster, which had been placed on the table as a decoration, suddenly melted. Well, it melted, inexplicably melted. Then, a snow-white, sparkling thing appeared. It quietly flew out of the window and went straight to the sky. That snow-white, translucent object let out a soft sound in midair before exploding on its own. At this moment, the millions of people in Phoenix City seemed to hear a clear and melodious phoenix cry in their hearts or souls. The sound was so pleasant that it seemed to hit their souls directly. At the same time, Zhuo opened his eyes and stared at the ice phoenix on the other side. The ice phoenix, which was wandering on the ground, suddenly raised its head. A white light rushed into the ice phoenix's head without any warning. The ice phoenix suddenly raised its head and flapped its wings violently. It slowly walked forward. At this moment, its steps were calm and confident, like a king descending to the world. The ice phoenix's demeanor changed. Zhuo promptly reported, "It's a kind of the feeling of a king descending to the world." But this feeling suddenly appeared. It's really strange. It wasn't there just now. Yuan's face showed a sincere smile. This is the return of the ice phoenix spirit of the Feng Manor. The heavens are blessing us, all living beings are lucky. She said meaningfully, the Feng Manor that we haven't been able to find must have been taken away by someone a long time ago. They must have protected the ice phoenix spirit. Today, when the wind and clouds meet, the ice phoenix spirit will immediately appear to find its master. Not bad, not bad. I, Yuan, am not the only one in this world. Very lucky. Very lucky. Zhuo opened his eyes and looked at the ice phoenix. He found that the ice phoenix looked up at the sky and didn't change its posture for a long time. The ice phoenix is looking up at the sky. It seems to be waiting for something. Zhuo was puzzled and quickly reported. Wait for what? Yuan was stunned. Now that everything is ready, what is there to wait for? That's not right. Zhuo exclaimed, in the east, there are large amounts of purple qi surging. Purple qi from the east? Yuan's eyes suddenly widened. That's great, how much is there? A lot, a lot. And it's coming very quickly. Right now, the entire east is filled with purple qi. Even now, it still hasn't stopped gushing out. It's still coming out. Zhuo's voice was hurried. This is a good thing. That's great, that's great. Yuan was unable to contain her joy. The purple qi is still rushing over. It's already halfway there, but it's still gushing out from the east. It's already spread over half. No, it's already spread over the entire sky. Right now, the purple qi is merging with the ice phoenix. It's still gushing out from the east. Zhuo was stunned by his own words. How could it be so amazing? This purple qi that rushed into the sky, filled the sky with purple qi, and seemed to be coming out without end. How much was there? Just how strong was this qi and qi sign? Yuan's smile grew wider and wider. The purple qi from the east connects heaven and earth, and the phoenix vein rushes to the ninth heaven. Good, good, good. At an unknown place far away. Oh no. The level of the phoenix vein. We underestimated it. It's already at the level of the heavenly vein. A person suddenly appeared on the mountain peak, looking anxious. He looked in a certain direction, then jumped up and turned into a long rainbow across the sky. The next moment, he was about to tear the space apart. Following this person's movement, another long rainbow flew up from the direction of the Sun-Moon Pass, intercepting this long rainbow on the other side. The two long rainbows collided with each other, and with a loud boom, the whole mountain nearby collapsed. Then, the two long rainbows landed on two small hills respectively, showing their figures and looking at each other. The person who showed his figure was a middle-aged man in a purple robe. At this moment, he said with a gloomy face, Dongfang, you want to stop me? Monthly votes. Monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Subscribe. Chapter 301. On the other side was a middle-aged man in a long green robe. His appearance was extremely scholarly. His brows were gentle and his eyes were smiling. He said, Lord Dan Kong, we have an agreement. The higher-ups are not allowed to interfere in this situation. Are you the one breaking the agreement now? Dan Kong said angrily, it was you who played dirty. That phoenix vein is definitely not an ordinary one. Dongfang remained calm and unruffled in the midst of the chaos. She said airily, these words are strange. Back then, we were watching the heaven and earth fate mirror together. Why are you accusing us of playing dirty now? If you can't afford to lose, just say it. Who doesn't know who you are? We've been guarding against you for a long time. Dan Kong was furious. How can a phoenix vein of this level be stopped by a mere wolf? It's you who played dirty tricks and misled us. Dongfang said calmly, isn't your brother Da Sui there too? Do you need me to teach you how to do it? Dan Kong snorted angrily, but he couldn't say anything. He couldn't say that their brother Da Sui had returned, and had been fucking turned into a weak blind man by them. He was still in seclusion, and no one knew when he would come out. Despicable and shameless. Dan Kong scolded, you humans with astral souls are really despicable and shameless. Extremely despicable. Dongfang said with a smile, Dan Kong, let's not talk about anything else. Just looking at your flustered and exasperated appearance makes me feel so good. You can continue. I'm willing to watch you like this. I can even watch you for a year. This is what it means to be pleasing to the eye. Dan Kong was furious. You! Go back. Dongfang said calmly, even if you have mastered the power of space, you're still not at Zhu Wu's level. With such a long distance between us, can you make it in time? Dan Kong said dejectedly, if you don't stop me, of course I can make it in time. Then why don't you guess whether I stop you or not? Dongfang smiled playfully. Fuck your grandmother. Guess your grandpa. If you don't stop me, then you must have seen a ghost. Dan Kong scolded, no longer caring about his manners. Dongfang said leisurely, you actually scolded me. I didn't even scold you. How ungentlemanly. Fine. Fuck all the women of your ancestors. Dan Kong roared furiously. The wind and clouds in the sky were cut off. Dongfang, do you think you can defeat me? Dan Kong roared angrily. Dongfang smiled. I can't beat you, but do you dare to make a move against me? At this time. At the right moment, a surge of saber chi appeared from afar and locked onto Dan Kong. Dongfang smiled. I'm not your opponent, but if you dare to fight me, I only need to hold you back for a second, and the right heavenly king can kill this body of yours. Are you coming or not? Come on, come on. Those who have astral souls are the most shameless. Dan Kong cursed. Then, his body flashed, turned into a rainbow, and flew back. Dongfang rubbed his chin and smiled as he looked in the direction Dan Kong left. He said slowly, seeing that we are weak, he wanted to bully the weak. Who is the shameless one here? Fuck your ancestors. Then, he stayed where he was and stood there, waiting. After a long time, there was a fluctuation in the air. Dan Kong appeared again. As soon as he appeared, he saw Dongfang. He immediately cursed, why the fuck are you still here? Dongfang smiled and said, why the fuck are you back? Dan Kong sighed dispiritedly. He cursed crazily for a while, and then disappeared again. This time, he really went back. However, Dongfang still didn't go back. He still stood on top of the small mountain and circulated the true chi in his dantian. He repeated Dan Kong's curses word by word, and his voice was loud enough to shake 1,000 miles. Within thousands of miles, everyone was stunned to hear Commander Dongfang cursing in the street. And he was cursing Dan Kong, who had a higher cultivation than him. Everyone's hair stood on end. Commander Dongfang was really awesome. After scolding him twice, Dongfang finally went back to his room. Fuck, how dare he curse me? Even if I have to curse, I'll take advantage of cursing twice. Phoenix City. Phoenix turned back. The purple gas has completely covered the sky. It's so thick that it's almost turned into a purple mirror. Zhuo continued to report, although Phoenix is about to show her majesty, she's still looking up, as if she's waiting for something. He Yuanyue frowned. What time is it now? 11:50. She's not ready to rush the soul. What is she waiting for? Don't delay the time. Zhuo also frowned, puzzled. I don't know. Something's wrong. What's wrong? Just now, a huge fire dragon suddenly rushed down from the other side of the sky. Fuck. It came down in an instant. Zhuo was shocked. He Yuanyue finally smiled comfortably, so Ice Phoenix is waiting for her partner. Good, with the fire dragon's protection, we're more confident. Zhuo continued to report, the fire dragon is like the Ice Phoenix, its body is exposed and it circles around the Ice Phoenix. The phoenix's expression changed. It looked very happy and began to flap its wings. The phoenix began to soar. The phoenix soared. It began to soar. Zhuo's voice was filled with excitement. On the vast land, the huge Ice Phoenix's wings finally flapped crazily, and its two claws had already left the ground and flew up. Then, everyone clearly heard the phoenix's cry. It was a cry full of excitement, confidence, happiness, and peace of mind. Phoenix cry whirled. Under Zhuo's gaze, the phoenix's feet touched the ground and suddenly flew up. Its wings flapped countless times in an instant, and then suddenly contracted to the side of its body. Its huge body turned into a huge snow-white arrow, and with its neck raised, it soared high into the sky. Straight to the clouds. The fire dragon let out a roar and soared into the sky alongside the phoenix. Dragon cry whirled. Dragon soar and phoenix dance. Star martial spirit crystal. Zhuo, dressed in plain clothes, was sitting cross-legged in a room of more than 20 square meters, surrounded by blood-red soul crystals. She was the only one in the room. On the roof, Qin Fangyang and Han Song stood on the left and right, holding swords. On the other corner, there was another cloud transformation expert left by the Star Shield General Bureau, Yu Shilong. These three cloud transformation experts formed an unbreakable triangular line of defense. Below, Mu Yanyan, dressed in plain white clothes, sat cross-legged at the door of the Star Martial Spirit Crystal Room. At the left window, Sister Lan stood with a saber, and on the other side, Qiu Yinsheng looked around with a sword. Mu Yanyan's three fellow apprentices stood quietly at a distance of more than 10 meters in front of Mu Yanyan, fully focused on the surrounding movements. Around them, there was at least one soul transformation expert in every key position, either in the open or in the dark, on alert. At a rough estimate, there were more than 20 soul transformation cultivators participating in this defense. Such a powerful lineup of guardians could be said to be luxurious, even extravagant. Yes, it was extravagant. It was just a guardian mission for a woman to break through to the elixir realm. Normally, even if a soul transformation expert broke through to the cloud transformation realm, there would not be such a luxurious lineup of guardians. If it weren't for Zhuo's actions, then the only person who would be guarding here would probably be Mu Yanyan. At most, there would be one or two nascent soul stage teachers in the academy. But at this moment, the core of the guardians had completely changed. Zhuo sat in the room with a calm mind, without any joy or sorrow. He emptied his mind and soul and used all his strength to activate the true yuan that he had been suppressing in his body, making it circulate continuously in his meridians. Faster and faster, more and more urgent. She was waiting for the opportunity to break through. When the true core strength in her body reached the peak, it would be the time to break through. For this breakthrough, Zhuo was fully confident. With more than 50 accumulations, there was no reason why she could not break through. However, if the phoenix vein did not move, her cultivation would be suppressed by the general trend, and she could not break through. This could be regarded as a manifestation of man's inability to overcome nature, and supernatural powers were not as good as nature. 10:00 o'clock. The true core strength in her body became more and more active, like boiling water. The temperature was on the verge of boiling. 10:30. The true core strength was boiling, and it was noisy and restless, at high speed. Between heaven and earth, countless spiritual chi began to gather here, rushing into the star martial spirit crystal room like rivers flowing into the sea. Zhou Xiaoyan's pretty face was still indifferent. She was calm and motionless, carefully feeling the true core strength in her body, waiting for the moment to break through. 11:00. The gathering of spiritual chi filled the whole Star Martial Arts Academy, like a sea of spiritual chi. Vast and boundless. Such momentum, even Qin Fangyang and others, could not help but change their expressions. When I broke through to the cloud transformation realm, there was no such momentum. Han Song was on full alert, but he was still shocked. Qin Fangyang curled his lips. I really don't know when I broke through to the cloud transformation realm. What kind of momentum it was. Even in such a solemn atmosphere, Han Song almost laughed out loud. This person broke through when he was unconscious. It would be strange if he knew. 11:30. The sound of a phoenix resonated in his heart. And also at this moment, in the thick snow, 3 starlights suddenly lit up. 2 in the north, 1 in the south. The 3 starlights shone, and the heavy snow was unable to block these 3 starlights. The 3 starlights crossed above the star martial spirit crystal room and slowly fell. And the intersection of the 3 stars was the star martial spirit crystal room. On the roof, Qin Fangyang said in a deep voice, "Everyone, pay attention, the killing wolf formation has been formed, the enemy is coming." Everyone who heard this felt a chill in their hearts. In these 2 days, the governor's mansion and the Star Martial Spirit Shield had almost plowed the ground and checked all the surrounding buildings more than 100 times, just to prevent the UMNO alliance from setting up the Killing Wolf formation. But now, that damn formation was still formed. Everyone really could not imagine how the other party did it. But the formation had already been formed. Even if they wanted to investigate, they would have to wait until later. What they needed to consider now was that with the formation of this formation, it was bound to increase the combat power of the UMNO alliance. The moment the killing formation was formed, even the vast amount of spiritual chi that gathered from all directions seemed to be stagnant at this moment. A voice seemed to resound in the netherworld. Kill! Kill the spiritual goddess! Right now! Kill! Chapter 302. The formation of Kill, Break, and Wolf had appeared at this critical moment. Then, the aura of this place was controlled by the 3 stars. The place that they had been guarding had become the home ground of the enemy. This was a huge blow to the people guarding here. Was the UMNO alliance so powerful? Streaks of black gas separated from the starlight and headed in different directions. If one studied the direction of the black gas, they would be the best attack route. As the black gas broke through the air, the dense snow in the air seemed to be stirred up and broken into pieces. Streaks of black shadows suddenly appeared like ghosts. As far as the eye could see, there were more than 400 shadows. All of them were flying in the air and heading towards the Star Martial Spirit Crystal Room. Qin Fangyang's expression changed. Although he had known that the strength of the attack would exceed the information he had received, this was too much. The number of people obviously exceeded the arrangement of the Star Emissary. The Star Emissary must have felt something and directly activated all the forces of the UMNO alliance in the Phoenix City. Kill! The guardians of the Phoenix City who were guarding here also flew out from their hiding places and tried their best to stop them. The moment the battle came into contact, an exceptionally tragic atmosphere appeared. The people of the UMNO alliance who came to attack this time were at least at the origin core realm. They were all fearless and rushed forward. Under the light of the 3 stars of Kill, Break, and Wolf, the strength of each of the UMNO alliance's experts was greatly enhanced. Originally, they were only at the origin core realm. Now, they were almost at the beginning of the nascent soul realm. Originally, they were at the high level of the nascent soul realm and could almost be used as clouds. This was the power of the astrology of the UMNO alliance. Screams sounded one after another. Just as the battle started, more than 10 people from both sides were bleeding in the air. With a weird laugh, a cloud in the air suddenly changed shape. A figure fell rapidly and its target was Qin Fangyang. The blade of the sword was eerie and murderous. Bastard of the Umno Alliance. Good timing. Qin Fangyang let out a long howl and brandished his long sword. Without dodging, he met the incoming enemy head-on and engaged in a fierce battle. As soon as they made contact, the 5 Qin Fangyangs all appeared and joined forces to attack the person they were fighting. Qin Fangyang was well aware of the dangers of this battle, so he went all out as soon as the battle began. He intended to finish off his opponent in the shortest amount of time possible and consolidate the defensive line on his side. The best strategy was to end the battle quickly. On the other hand, Han Song and Yu Shilong did not even lift their eyelids as they continued to guard their positions. At this critical juncture, protecting Zhou Xiaoyan was their top priority. Even if Qin Fangyang was killed in a single blow in front of them, they could only watch helplessly. His position must not be messed up. At this moment, Qin Fangyang was in the direction of the 7 kills formation, which was where the killing intent was the strongest. Han Song and Yu Shilong kept their heads down and did not move. In fact, they were fully focused and were careful to adapt to the situation. At this moment, with a loud boom, a huge piece of metal weighing hundreds of thousands of jin suddenly appeared right above the 3 stars open formation, smashing down with a loud bang. The landing point was the Star Martial Spirit Crystal Room. Han Song and Yu Shilong were furious. Although they had expected this move, the piece of metal in front of them was too big and too heavy. The two of them roared at the same time and flew up from the ground. The 2 swords simultaneously launched the move of body and sword as one, turning into lightning and thunder to meet it. This huge piece of metal must be broken down before it smashed into the Star Martial Spirit Crystal Room. If it was allowed to fall, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if it did not directly hit the spiritual goddess, Zhou Xiaoyan in the Star Martial Spirit Crystal Room would be exposed to everyone. Pieces of metal were broken down one by one, and the speed was extremely fast. However, boom boom boom. A series of noises could be heard. Surprisingly, another 7 or 8 pieces of metal of the same size were flying over. Moreover, they were not limited to the roof, but from all directions. Everyone could no longer remain indifferent and wait, and they all made their moves. Only Mu Yanyan remained motionless, guarding the door behind her. Even if this piece of metal smashed directly on her head, she would not leave the position she was guarding. Her eldest senior brother, Jiang Zhilan, appeared in a flash and blocked the iron block that was facing her. At this moment, there were a few rapid air-breaking sounds in the air again. It was 3 figures, from 3 directions, rushing towards the Star Martial Spirit Crystal Room. Mu Yanyan finally could not remain indifferent and screamed, "For Cloud Transformation Realm." This sudden change was obviously out of everyone's expectation. No matter if it was the Phoenix City or the Umno Alliance forces, that emissary, even when the Umno Alliance members had a meeting, said that there would only be 2 Cloud Transformation Realm cultivators, but now there were already 4 Cloud Transformation Realm cultivators. And these 4 Cloud Transformation Realm cultivators did not include Fang Yinhua. Such a lineup was terrifying and appalling. If Zhou Xiaoduo knew that there was such a change, he would definitely curse. Damn it, you lied to me. Qin Fangyang, Han Song, and Yu Shilong all used their strength to block, risking their lives. Han Yu and Yu Shilong did not hesitate to expend a lot of energy to block the Cloud Transformation Realm cultivators. But they had expended too much energy, and in a hurry to deal with the enemy, they were actually at a disadvantage. Qin Fangyang directly exploded one of his clones, causing his opponent to spit out blood and retreat. He steadily took his original position and fought with one of the people who rushed over. 1 against 2, the 5-direction sword showed its power. On the other side, Sister Lan calmly cut an incoming piece of metal. Suddenly, she let out a long roar, and around her body, white clouds rose. Her long sword whistled like a dragon, and in the blink of an eye, more than 20 Umno Alliance cultivators who rushed over were slaughtered. Boiling blood directly dyed the snow dozens of meters around. Cloud Transformation Realm. Another Cloud Transformation Realm cultivator. Sister Lan, who had been hiding her cultivation all this time and had never truly exposed it, finally revealed her true strength today. But in the eyes of Qin Fangyang and Han Song, Sister Lan's Cloud Transformation Realm was still somewhat unstable. She should have just broken through, and her foundation was not solid yet. The two of them understood, Sister Lan should be the same as Qin Fangyang. When she fought with Shang Qingyun last time, she touched a bottleneck and then broke through. But no matter what, another Cloud Transformation Realm cultivator had appeared on their side. Although it was not a miracle, it was still a great encouragement. But a loud rumbling sound pulled everyone back to reality. Heavy pieces of metal attacked from all directions. With the sudden appearance of 4 Cloud Transformation Realm cultivators, Phoenix City's tight defensive line was finally unable to withstand the repeated attacks, and a flaw appeared. On one side of the wall of the Star Weapon Gold Crystal Room, a large hole was created by a piece of metal that slipped through the net. From outside, one could already see Zhou Xiaoyan sitting cross-legged inside. A figure laughed sinisterly, appearing like a ghost. The sword in his hand emitted a blood-red light as he rushed inside. It was actually the outfit of an old farmer who sold vegetables. He directly rushed into the Star Weapon Spirit Crystal Room. Another Cloud Transformation Realm cultivator actually joined the battle. Qin Fangyang was burning with anxiety. That's not right. The information given by Zhou Xiaoduo was completely inaccurate. The person who wanted to take advantage of the gap had only rushed out 2 meters when he suddenly let out a strange cry, as if he was fighting with someone. What was even more bizarre was that the person fighting with him did not appear from the beginning to the end. To the outsiders, it was as if that person was fighting with the air. Divine Shadow. The Umno Alliance expert shouted, "There is a divine shadow beside the spiritual thought goddess. Activate the falling star plan." Hearing this, all the Umno Alliance experts' expressions turned cold. Then, a tragic expression appeared on their faces. More than 20 Core Realm experts and 9 Nascent Soul Realm experts suddenly changed their attacks. They all rushed forward as if they did not care about their lives. When he reached the border, he even self-detonated his own flesh and blood body to the limit. After more than 30 loud noises, the area around the Star Weapon Spirit Crystal Room had been turned into ruins. But even in such an extreme battle atmosphere, the destroyed area was still suppressed to the area around the Star Weapon Spirit Crystal Room. Mu Yanyan, Qin Fangyang, and the others formed a big circle and spared no effort to maintain it, not letting the Umno Alliance people rush in. But the people of the Umno Alliance people were like crazy. They directly self-destructed when they could not rush in. Fortunately, the self-destructing cultivator was still at the Nascent Soul Realm. Otherwise, Qin Fangyang and the others would have suffered heavy casualties. But even so, the other side's self-detonation still exerted great pressure on the Phoenix City's experts. Han Song and Yu Shilong were caught in the explosion's shockwaves and staggered, while the other side was even more merciless, launching a series of attacks. The two of them roared angrily, but there was nothing they could do. They could only retreat step by step, with blood splashing everywhere. At this time, a tall figure seemed to fly in from the sky. In a flash, he had already joined the battle circle and blocked Qin Fangyang's attack. As soon as he attacked, Qin Fangyang fell into a disadvantage. "Go in!" The person who came shouted in a low voice. If it was not Fanginua, who else could it be? The Umno Alliance sent out the 7th expert of the Cloud Transformation Realm. Qin Fangyang and the others' hearts turned cold. How could there be so many? The 2 experts of the Cloud Transformation Realm who replaced him roared and took a hit from Qin Fangyang. They had already rushed into the Star Weapon Spirit Crystal Room. However, when they entered, they were also intercepted by another divine shadow. The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. These 2 people were already seriously injured. At this moment, they were completely suppressed by the other divine shadow and were completely at a disadvantage. But the Star Weapon Spirit Crystal Room was completely exposed to the void. Everyone could see that in the middle of the battle, Zhou Xiaoyan was sitting quietly in a white robe. The true core qi above her head was slowly rising, forming a lotus flower in full bloom that she was about to succeed in breaking through. At this time, the time was already 11:58. The cries of dragons and phoenixes sounded in everyone's hearts. The whole world was filled with the cries of dragons and phoenixes. The cries of dragons and phoenixes never stopped. Even in the midst of the heavy snow, even in the midst of the intense battle, everyone's eyes were still dazed for a moment. It was as if they saw a huge phoenix, surrounded by a huge dragon, soaring into the sky like a sharp arrow. All the way to the sky, advancing courageously. Graceful and at ease, the ruler of the world. In front of them was the endless sky, the 9 heavens. The phoenix vein is breaking through the soul. The phoenix vein is breaking through the soul. No one knew who it was, but he shouted loudly. Even the 2 divine shadows were in a fierce battle at this moment. They were in imminent danger. As long as one of the enemies rushed in, all their previous efforts would be wasted. At this moment, Fang Yinhua let out a long and shrill cry, "Charge in at all costs." Before his voice died away, he had already taken the lead and rushed down. His palms struck out at the same time. The power of his palms was like a giant hammer, rushing toward Han Song and Yu Shilong who were blocking him. Charge in. The other Huayun masters of the Umno Alliance saw hope. They used all their strength to attack fiercely and shake the defense line. Together with Jiang Zhilan's attack, 6 directions were in danger at the same time. Qin Fangyang opened his eyes wide and shouted, "Explode! Explode! Explode!" The 3 clones exploded at the same time. The 3 Huayun masters were almost smashed into pieces by the explosion. 2 of them had one of their shoulders and one of their legs blown away. However, Qin Fangyang also spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His body was shaking, and his face was pale. At this moment, Fang Yinhua and the other Huayun master of the Umno Alliance had already rushed in. At this moment, it was 12:00 sharp. Zhou Xiaoyan only felt that the vital energy in his body was flowing into the ocean, crashing into the barrier of the inner Dan stage with an unstoppable force. With a light cracking sound, the barrier of the inner Dan stage was broken. The river-like vital energy rushed into the new meridians and flowed at an extremely fast speed. At this moment, charge! Fang Yinhua and the other Huayun master had already rushed to Zhou Xiaoyan's side. The 2 immortal shadows exerted all their strength. They did not even care about hiding their bodies anymore. They wanted to stop them, but their opponents were also using all their strength to fight. The 2 immortal shadows were powerless. They could only sigh helplessly. The golden light in the sky that was filled with the essence of Tao had already shot into the star martial soul crystal. It was only 2 feet away from Zhou Xiaoyan. At this moment, the Huayun master of the Umno Alliance who rushed in first shouted and slashed at the defenseless Zhou Xiaoyan with his sword. His face was filled with a ferocious and cruel smile. However, at the next moment, he suddenly shouted. The long sword stopped in the air. His expression turned into shock and disbelief. "You!" He let out a loud cry. It was Fang Yinhua who had taken advantage of the opening to strike. One hand had ruthlessly pierced into his chest, grabbing his heart and crushing it without any hesitation. The other hand had pierced into his dantian at the same speed, shattering his soul source with a bang. Following which, he separated his hands and tossed the Cloud Transformation Realm expert's body into minced meat. He even shouted, "Quick! Kill the spiritual thought goddess and it will be a success." Similarly, at this moment, the golden light of Tao rushed into Zhou Xiaoyan's body. An extremely joyous phoenix cry resounded in everyone's souls. A small phoenix shadow flashed above Zhou Xiaoyan's head and then disappeared. An unbelievably powerful aura was emitted from his body. It covered the sky and covered the earth. Phoenix meridians rushed to the soul. Success! Just as the 2 immortal shadows were stunned, Fang Yinhua swept past like a whirlwind and smashed a Huayun master of the Umno Alliance into pieces. He grabbed his original soul and scolded, "What are you doing? Kill her." As he spoke, he rushed in front of Jiang Zhilan. Jiang Zhilan was stunned in disbelief. He punched his head and smashed his original soul. Then, his body floated up. "Oh! Kill the spiritual thought goddess." He rushed toward the battle in the sky. Fang Yinua's true cultivation was definitely not below Qin Fangyang's. He was also the one with the most complete combat power among all the people present. At the same time, he was also familiar with the strength of the people in the Wizard Alliance. He directly rushed into the battlefield where Han Song and Yu Shilong were and shouted, "Long live the Celestial Wizard! We will succeed!" Bang! Bang! In just a moment, the three Huayun masters who were almost blown away by Qin Fangyang's self-explosion were all killed. One of them was still confused even when he died. "Brother Fang, I killed the wrong person." "It's okay." Fang Yinhua comforted him. "Go in peace. I am here." After killing him with a slap, he did not stop and rushed toward the Huayun master who was fighting with Sister Lan. He shouted, "Let's attack together. Don't let any of them escape." Everyone was shocked. Fang Yinua's shout was actually a woman's voice. Where did this drama queen come from? Fang Yinhua roared as he continued to attack without a care in the world. At this moment, the battle was over. Other than the people who were fighting with Sister Lan and the people who were fighting with the two divine shadows, the rest of the experts from the Wizard Alliance had all died. None of them were lucky. The rest of the people rushed forward and killed the Umno Alliance's experts who were shocked out of their wits. However, the people on their side looked at this great expert who had suddenly appeared with confused eyes. Everyone was confused. This person. His cultivation is so high. Where did he come from? This is simply. The rest of the battle was completely one-sided. The experts of the Wizard Alliance were all slaughtered, just as Fang Yinhua had expected. Even Fang Yinua's martial nephews, Yun Juiying and Pan Yusheng, were killed by Fang Yinhua himself. Yun Juiying and Pan Yusheng looked at their martial uncle in disbelief. Their whole lives were turned upside down at this moment. They did not expect such a thing to happen. Martial uncle? Yun Juiying's handsome face was filled with despair and disbelief. Umno Alliance's thieves. Give me your lives. Fang Yinhua used a woman's voice to curse and killed his two martial nephews with a sword. After that, he still did not greet anyone. He searched around the battlefield, afraid that there would be some fish that escaped the net. This kind of viciousness, this kind of viciousness, this kind of viciousness, it was even more vicious than the protectors of Phoenix City. However, the dust had settled. The Phoenix Meridian Soul Awakening was successful. The 6 Umno Alliance's experts in the Cloud Transformation Realm were all dead. Sister Lan, please continue to protect the spiritual senses. The rest of you, check the casualties and treat the injured. Han Song and Yu Shilong had already checked Mu Yanyan's injuries. Although the sword had pierced her chest, they did not know if it was a blessing in disguise or if Jiang Zhilan still had a bit of conscience and did not directly pierce her heart. Although Mu Yanyan's injuries were extremely serious, her life was not in danger. As for the others, 7 nascent soul transformation realm experts died. 4 nascent soul transformation realm experts were seriously injured. Qin Fangyang self-destructed 4 doppelgangers and injured his origin. This was an extremely heavy price to pay. Qiu Yunshang was the luckiest this time. As soon as he came up, he was attacked by a cloud transformation realm expert. He vomited blood and fainted. In the end, he was the one with the lightest injuries. This brother, how should I address you? Han Song finally looked at Fang Yinhua and asked. He saw Fang Yinua's mask. Han Song had good eyesight. He immediately knew that the other party did not want to reveal his identity. While he was stunned, he saw Fang Yinhua start to move again. A sword pierced through his thigh. Another sword slashed his lower abdomen. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. He smashed his right shoulder with his left palm and broke his right leg with his right fist. He used his hand to pull his left ear, and half of it fell off. Only his skin and flesh were left. Chapter 304. Fong Inua howled in grief and indignation as he fled desperately, as if there were countless experts chasing after him. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. Black lines appeared on everyone's forehead. His acting skills were really on point. However, this guy was really ruthless. He was ruthless to others and even more ruthless to himself. He could really do it. This news must be kept a secret. He should be a spy arranged by our higher-ups. Sigh, in order to achieve today's situation, we had no choice but to expose ourselves. I don't know if there will be any risks when we return. Han Song let out a long sigh. Clean up the bodies of our brothers. Yu Shilong's face was very heavy, but there was also a trace of relief. The Phoenix Vein soul washing had finally succeeded. Now, Zhou Xiaonian had successfully broken through. She would wake up after her star essence chi was completely stabilized. From another point of view, they had only sacrificed a few people and wiped out the Umno Alliance's forces. A total of 7 transforming cloud cultivators had died here. The killing, destroying, and wolf sects had also been wiped out. This could be said to be a glorious victory. However, as long as there were sacrifices, no matter how great the victory was, there would always be a shadow of sadness, which would make people unable to be completely happy. The Phoenix Vein soul washing had ended. High up in the sky, a figure quietly heaved a sigh of relief and disappeared in a flash. Higher up in the sky, 2 extremely powerful auras were confronting each other. The moment the Phoenix Vein soul washing succeeded. Among them, an inexplicable aura shook slightly. Then, it quietly retreated for a full 3,000 miles. The gap left by this aura was immediately occupied by another aura. You've lost this round. Don't be complacent. You may not necessarily win this round. You'll lose again. You have the will of the astral souls. You have the geographical advantage. On the other hand, my will of the oracle soul is from another world. It's normal for you to have the upper hand. You and I are originally one. Why do we have to decide the winner? No need to say more. Focus on the source. Focus on the source. Don't interfere. Of course. It's up to fate. North of Phoenix City, Phoenix turning back. Midnight. Zhou Xiaoduo stared at it without blinking. How is it? At this time, He Yuanyue's voice was already very weak, and her voice was somewhat faint. The phoenix has already soared into the sky. However, the Umno Alliance has been plotting for a long time and has finally taken action. They have broken through the descending stars formation of the 3 sects of the Wolf sect and sealed it off. Astral powers have filled the air, indicating that the 2 sides are engaged in a fierce battle. Zhou Xiaoduo said. How about the purple chi? He Yuanyue's voice was intermittent. The purple gas filling the sky is still the same. Although it has been affected by the star formation of the kill-break wolf, judging from the current signs, it is not a big problem. The ones that are dispersed are not as numerous as the ones that continue to emerge. That's good. We still have the upper hand. The fire dragon is protecting the phoenix. It is hovering around the phoenix, disintegrating and destroying the power of the killing wolf star array bit by bit. While disintegrating and destroying the array, the fire dragon soared into the sky. Zhou Xiaoduo watched carefully. All right. In the Providence array, the phoenix's posture was the same as before. It flew high into the sky, ignoring everything else. The other shore was right in front of them. Beside me, I have companions. I don't need to worry about safety. I don't need to worry about life or death. I don't need to worry about success or failure. I will leave everything to him. The fire dragon was hovering around the phoenix. Its enormous body formed an enormous shield of light, which protected the phoenix that was soaring into the sky like a sharp arrow. Even if there were spears and arrows coming from all directions, so what? None of them could take half a step forward. In the sky, the roars of dragons and phoenixes were faintly echoing. There was also the sound of thunder, which was like the beating of ancient war drums. Every beat was knocking on people's hearts and souls. The purple chi in the sky was getting denser and denser. With another explosion, the phoenix broke through a patch of dark clouds. It didn't stop for even a moment, and it had already reached the heavens. The fire dragon was still flying side by side with the phoenix. Finally, the starlight array of the Killbreak Wolf Star Array could not withstand the impact of the purple chi in the sky and the roars of dragons and phoenixes anymore. It collapsed from point to line and from line to surface. The starlight trembled in the sky. Then, it collapsed into a rain of light and disappeared. In the distant sky, the 3 stars of the Killbreak Wolf Star Array suddenly dimmed. At this moment, the phoenix let out an extremely joyful cry. Its originally retracted wings suddenly spread open. Its wings reached the sky and spread far and wide. An indescribable aura pervaded the sky. The world was suddenly filled with a pure and holy light that belonged to the ice phoenix. Specks of white light instantly formed endless waves. They rushed over wave after wave, carrying the gratitude of the phoenix, and poured into the purple chi in the sky. The phoenix spread its wings and soared into the depths of the 9 heavens. The fire dragon was still hovering in the sky, scattering red specks of light in the sky. This was the fire dragon's gratitude. Together with the specks of light scattered by the phoenix, they scattered into the purple chi. However, compared to the phoenix's white light that filled the sky like a rising tide, the fire dragon's red light was much less. She had no more regrets in this life. After 80 years of hard work, the trees have finally grown into shade, and the world is filled with students. After 40 years of planning, in the end, the phoenix meridian surges into the soul, and the astral souls prosper. He Yuan's face was flushed red. She smiled and said, I, He Yuan, have lived a worthy life. Atop the snowy phoenix head, He Yuan smiled in gratification. She looked at the endless mountains and rivers in front of her, wrapped in silver and white. Her eyes were filled with boundless affection, boundless yearning. I really don't want to leave. Her life force was rapidly fading away from her body. Her voice was low and deep. Although it was getting weaker, it was still clear. I, He Yuan, have a clear conscience in this life. I have a clear conscience to the astral souls. I have a clear conscience to mankind. I have a clear conscience to my students and my country. His voice was completely weak. She opened her eyes, sparkling and translucent tears flashing in her eyes. But I, Lu Chanshan. In this life, the only thing I have done wrong to you. The only thing I owe you. She stared blankly at the void and muttered, Fang Yang. On the other side, Sister Lan immediately hung up the phone and shouted, Qin Fang Yang. Qin Fang Yang's avatars had all exploded in this battle, and his internal organs were all injured. His injuries were so serious that they could not be healed. At this moment, his face was as pale as paper, and he kept vomiting blood. He was in a daze. At this moment, he was barely hanging on, waiting to confirm the completion of the layout of the Phoenix vein. Suddenly, he heard the voice and opened his eyes weakly. What is it? Hurry up and follow me. Sister Lan flashed like a hurricane, grabbed Qin Fang Yang, and rushed toward the phoenix head without sparing any effort. Her speed was so fast that it was shocking. As soon as she started, there was already a wisp of smoke in the air behind her. The old principal is dying. This sentence was like a bomb, shaking everyone's heart and soul, and they all rushed over here. Mu Yanyan was seriously injured, and her voice was weak. Take Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan is the child that the old principal cares about the most. The two divine shadows did not hesitate and rotated at the same time. One carried Zhuo Xiaoyan, who had successfully broken through and was about to wake up, and the other carried Mu Yanyan. Only then did they soar into the sky and rush away. Although the wind and snow had weakened, it was still overwhelming. Sister Lan was so anxious that she did not hesitate to burn her life, potential, and divine soul. She rushed forward crazily with Qin Fangyang. Hundreds of miles of space flashed by. The moment they saw the phoenix head, the two had already fallen like sharp arrows. When Qin Fangyang, who was already heavily injured and unable to continue, saw Feng turn her head around, he instantly understood. He did not know where his strength came from, but with a roar, he broke free from Sister Lan's grasp and charged forward without a care in the world. He rushed to the front of the wheelchair and stared at the person who was no longer moving. Qin Fangyang trembled all over. He opened his mouth but could not speak. There was a sound in his throat, like the sad cry of a dying beast. He reached out his hand. At this moment, there was no more scruples. He gently took the person in front of him into his arms. Tears trickled down from his eyes. He Yuanyue was in a dying state at this moment. She could not see. Fortunately, she could still feel her body. She felt that her body seemed to have fallen into a warm, strong, and reliable embrace. This feeling was somewhat familiar, yet strange at the same time. However, his originally drifting heart suddenly calmed down, and he actually felt that the slight fear he had towards the other world had also instantly disappeared. Her whole body was quiet. She closed her eyes and asked in a trembling voice, "Who? Who is it?" Qin Fangyang closed his eyes and tried to control his sobs. He tried to calm his voice and said slowly, "It's me." "Oh." He Yuanyue leaned more and more quietly in his arms. There was only one last thought left in her mind: I am so happy. I can die in his arms in this life. I am so relieved. Suddenly she thought of something. She desperately opened her eyes and said, "I am He Yuan." Qin Fangyang nodded hard. "Old principal. Old principal. I am here." In the air, countless figures were falling. Their voices seemed to be shouting, "Old principal. Old principal." Zhuo Xiaoyan's voice suddenly sounded. She choked, "Grandma He. Grandma He, I have successfully broken through. Please open your eyes and look." He Yuanyue tried hard to open her eyes, but she could not. She could only feel the figures in front of her. She quietly leaned in Qin Fangyang's arms. With the last of her strength, she murmured, "It's so warm. I am so happy." Her body moved slightly, and then she stopped breathing forever. However, her face was full of satisfaction and happiness. The corners of her mouth were curved, and there was a smile. Her lifelong wish had been fulfilled. Her phoenix meridian had successfully broken through her soul. Before she died, her lover was by her side. Her embrace was warm, and her soul was supported. Qin Fangyang did not move. He just hugged her like that. He rested his chin on her head and rubbed it gently. He kept his mouth shut. 2 lines of tears silently dripped down from He Yuanyue's smiling face like a small river. However, He Yuanyue did not feel anything at all. "Old principal." Jiang Zhangbin, Li Changjiang, Hu Ruoyan. Everyone cried out in grief at the same time and knelt on the ground in unison. Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan knelt at the front. In an instant, the entire phoenix head was filled with cries and sorrowful cries. Everyone felt as if their minds had suddenly gone blank for a moment. The wind whistled, and snow flew everywhere. The entire world was covered in white and everything was clean. It was like the holy light of the full moon shining on the vast earth. After a long time, Sister Lan's bleak voice sounded, "Don't cry. The old principal has sacrificed everything for the country, for the people, for Second High, and for the students. Now, her wish has been fulfilled. She has passed away with a smile. This is a happy funeral. She is finally not so tired anymore." Sister Lan asked everyone not to cry, but she herself was like a tearful person. Jiang Zhangbin's body trembled. He really felt like the sky had collapsed. The old principal, who had been like a mother to him, was gone. I don't have a teacher. I don't have a teacher. I don't have a teacher anymore. Jiang Zhangbin cried loudly. Suddenly, he grabbed Li Changjiang and shouted angrily, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying? As the principal, why are you crying at this time? Hurry up and send the news of the old principal's death to second high school. Send the teacher off. Tell all the brats who left second high. All of them come back. Send the old principal off. Every one of them is the child of the old principal's heart. The old principal used her life's effort to raise us. I want to see who dares to not come back today. We are useless, useless." Jiang Zhangbin looked up and roared angrily, "All these years, more than tens of thousands of students have left second high. But not a single one of them could get the medicine to prolong the old principal's life. What use do we have for you? What use do we have for you? We only sucked the old principal's blood dry to grow, but we didn't get anything in return." Jiang Zhangbin looked up and roared angrily, "What use do we have for you?" Li Changjiang cried as she turned on her phone and sent a message to all the second high school students. The old principal, He Yuanyue, passed away at midnight on the 16th of July. All second high school students who see this message, please send this message. All the old principal's students, go home and send the old principal off. Once the message was sent out, it immediately caused a commotion everywhere. The old principal. All the students who were still in Phoenix City saw this message. It was as if they had seen a bolt from the blue. They immediately got out of bed and put on their clothes. They rushed out of their houses in tears and trekked through the snow to gather at second high school. The tide of people from all directions gathered at second high school in the waist-high snow. When the students of number 2 high school who were already out of town saw the news, they immediately pushed aside everything they had to do and used all their means to find the fastest way to get to Phoenix City. Sun Moon Pass. In a certain military camp. A few bursting cries suddenly resounded through the military camp, "The old principal." Then, a few burly men rushed into Shengguan Army's tent like a whirlwind. Their eyes were red and their faces were filled with tears. They were sorrowful, requesting leave. In various cities, streaks of light shot into the sky and headed towards Phoenix City. To send the old principal off. He Yuanyue spent her entire life teaching. It was not an exaggeration to say that she had students all over the world. Countless people were crying and running back. I originally wanted to report to the old principal after I had some achievements. At least I would have the face to tell her that her efforts were not in vain. I really deserve to die. Why couldn't I go back earlier? Old principal. We are here to send you off. Countless people were still watching in their sleep. Their phones kept ringing. They woke up impatiently to answer the phone. Then, they fell into a daze with tears streaming down their faces. The moment they came back to their senses, they put on their clothes and headed back in the starry night above Phoenix Head. Qin Fangyang was still hugging He Yuanyue tightly. No matter how anyone tried to persuade him, he would not let go. So light. So skinny. Qin Fangyang murmured as he carried He Yuanyue down the mountain slowly. It was as if he was carrying the only treasure in his life. He was so careful, so cautious, and so protective. I know, you are He Yuanyue, you are He Yuanyue, you are not Lu Qianqian. Is this what you want to say? Qin Fangyang murmured to himself, yes, you are He Yuanyue, so what? You are Lu Qianqian, so what? In the end, you left me behind. Just like that time in Shangjing. You left me behind. And never returned. You are so cruel. Last time, when you left me behind, I could still find you. Even if I searched for a lifetime, I would still have some hope. But this time. From now on, the spring flowers, autumn moon, summer wind, winter snow. Everything in this world is meaningless to me. From now on, I will be the only one left in this world. Facing the wind, the frost, the furnace of heaven and earth, I will bear everything alone. There will be no more you, no more. You are so cruel. Before you left, you arranged so many things for me, so many regrets. You said you had so many things that you couldn't let go of. Hee hee, you just wanted me to do it for you, to complete it. I understand, I understand. You thought of everything for me, but you didn't think about what would happen to me without you. What would happen to me? Do you know how much I missed you all these years? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Back then, you said that we would stay together for the rest of our lives. Back then, you said that we would have children together. Back then, you said that we would see the world together and grow old together. Qin Fangyang murmured, but in this life, I lost you completely. Lu Qianshan, do you know how much you owe me? How are you going to repay me? How are you going to repay me? 100 years of missing you, 80 years of searching, and a lifetime of yearning and loneliness. How are you going to repay me? How are you going to repay me? Give me back. Qin Fangyang was bleeding from his orifices, but he didn't seem to notice. He suddenly growled, "Give me back. Give me back. Give me back." His vision turned black, and his body swayed a few times before he fainted. Everyone around him cried out in alarm. Zhou Xiaoduo searched for a long time. He asked Zhou Xiaonian, who had just broken through, to carry him. They spent an entire day and a half flying around Phoenix City in search of He Yuanyue's resting place. In the end, they confirmed that it was at the foot of Phoenix Huta's mountain peak. The old principal spent her entire life observing Phoenix City's providence. Let's leave her resting place here. She'll watch all her students live and work in peace. She'll watch as Phoenix City's providence rises day by day. She'll watch as the Phoenix vein is reborn. After confirming the location of the tomb, they decided on the manpower and began digging. Jiang Zhongbin and Sun Fengho's eyes were red. They almost fought with the students who rushed back. Of course I'll build the old principal's resting place with my own hands. In the end, 8 of He Yuanyue's former students carried tools and headed to Phoenix Huitu. All of He Yuanyue's former students were dressed in white. They arrived at the same time to dig the tomb for the old principal. As they dug, their cries shook the sky. Streams of light came from all over the world. In front of the Sun-Moon Pass, Marshal Dongfang specially sent out a military spaceship. All the soldiers from Second High boarded the spaceship and rushed back through the night. July 18th. Phoenix City was covered in mourning clothes. Thousands of miles of Phoenix City was filled with sorrowful music. The hearse started and circled around Second High. Then, it slowly left and drove toward Phoenix Huitu. Paper money fluttered in the air. It was as if the old principal was reluctant to leave Second High School, unable to bear to leave. On this day, all the flowers in Second High withered. All the students of Number 2 High School, including those who had graduated, as long as they were still alive, quietly followed behind the hearse and lined up spontaneously. Their clothes were as white as snow. The whole land was filled with holy white waves. They slowly moved toward Phoenix Huitu. At the front was a huge photo of He Yuanyue. She was still looking forward with a gentle and loving gaze. The two sides of the couplet were intertwined. The world of students, the eternal paragon. Some people once said that the eternal paragon was too much. However, the students of Second High insisted on using this sentence. There was no room for doubt. His white clothes were like the tide, endless and endless. Qin Fangyang's face was haggard as he walked at the front. Jiang Zhongbin and Hu Ruoyan felt like their hearts were being cut by a knife. In this last journey, Qin Fangyang could not use the identity of He Yuanyue's husband that he had hoped for the most and that He Yuanyue had longed for the most. How cruel was this to such a pair of lovers? The only thing they could do was to let Qin Fangyang walk at the front and use silent facts to comfort this pair of lovers. The withered hearts of the living, the souls of the deceased in heaven. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan, one on the left and one on the right, held the photo. The procession slowly moved forward. There were still people in white mourning clothes rushing over from all directions in the sky. They quietly landed and consciously joined the procession, joining the funeral procession. This procession stretched for 60 miles out of the city. There were many people in white waiting quietly at the city gate, waiting to leave the city and join the procession. No one spoke, and no one cried. Along the way, no one made a sound. They were all afraid of disturbing the old principal's final review in heaven. Don't cry. Let the old principal leave quietly. Quietly, take one last look at Second High, take one last look at us, and look at Phoenix City for one night. However, hot tears had already wet the ground within 100 miles. Countless students sobbed silently. They trembled and fainted a few times. Until someone reminded them, speed up. Don't delay the old principal's burial time. Only then did the procession slowly speed up. Above Phoenix Head, the tomb had been dug. It leaned against the mountain and stood facing the sun. There were dragons on the left and phoenixes on the right. There was wind and water. All the funerary items had been placed in. Inside, there were countless treasures. They were all sent by the students. It was said that the treasures could increase the fortune of the past and future lives. Jiang Zhongbin, Sun Fengho, and the other students chose 8 representatives. They worked together to carry the coffin forward quietly. They did not dare to move at all. They were afraid of disturbing the old principal who had given them a new lease on life. Finally, the coffin fell silently and was sent into the tomb. Everyone knelt down in unison. Jiang Zhongbin and the others, who were at the front, held shovels and began to fill the soil silently. Every time a handful of soil fell, everyone felt a heart-wrenching pain in their hearts. It seemed that with every handful of soil that fell, they were further away from the old principal. That when the last handful of soil fell, everyone began to lay stones and lay the tombstone. The tomb of He Yuanyue, the principal of Second High. It was such a simple name. On one side was the poem written by Zhou Xiaoduo. There are many regrets in this life. My great love fills the galaxy. The spring breeze spreads across the world. Thousands of years of history are carved in jade. This was what He Yuanyue had chosen when she was alive. On the other side, the plum blossom small seal recorded He Yuanyue's life. On the tombstone, He Yuanyue's gentle and loving face was still quietly looking at everything in front of her. She looked at her students, looked at the phoenix vein that she had worked hard for her life, and looked at the thousands of lights in Phoenix City. 3 incense sticks were slowly lit. Everyone was still silent. They did not dare to make a sound for fear of disturbing the deceased. Finally, with tears in his eyes, Jiang Zhongbin pursed his lips and said in a trembling voice, the old principal is already in peace. Now you don't have to worry about disturbing her. All of you can cry to your heart's content. As soon as he finished speaking, a deafening cry sounded. It was the cry that had been suppressed for a long time. At this moment, it was finally time to vent to their heart's content. Many people cried until their bodies trembled and fainted. The general of the Sun Moon Fortress held 2 special wreaths and slowly walked forward. These were 2 extremely special wreaths. They were made entirely of white jade and were incomparably huge. They were densely packed with metals, all of which were military medals of the soldiers from Second High. There was a dazzling array of at least 10,000 medals. The glory of tens of thousands of soldiers gathered here. There was also an inscription written by General Dongfang himself, Eternal Glory. The leader, a burly man in white, knelt on the ground and cried out in tears, Teacher! Open your eyes and look. We didn't lose face for you. Teacher! We didn't lose face for you, we didn't lose face for Second High. All the students of Second High who returned from the Sun Moon Fortress saluted at the same time, then knelt down and cried bitterly. Wave after wave of students continued to pour in. The entire mountain was almost covered with wreaths. The smell of incense and candles stretched for thousands of miles and did not dissipate for a long time. Someone suddenly choked with sobs and began to recite the words that he Yuanhua often said. I hope that my home will not be destroyed, I hope that my country will not be invaded, I hope that my brothers will always be happy, I hope that my sisters will always be safe, I hope that I can protect all of this. At first, only one person was reciting while sobbing, but more and more people joined in. Later on, millions of people were reciting at the same time, and their voices shook thousands of miles. Everyone seemed to have seen He Yuanhua suddenly appear in front of them with a heavy expression on her face. She looked at them and said softly, I hope that the children of Second High can walk out of this world with an indomitable spirit. I hope that the children of Second High, even if they can't become pillars, each of them can be an upright person. I hope. Listening to these familiar words, that respectable old man's greatest wish and deepest blessing was always on the tip of his tongue. Everyone's tears fell like rain. Piles of wreaths came forward. Countless students of Second High knelt in front of He Yuanhua's grave. Teacher. Wave after wave of people came and went. The light of incense and candles filled the entire Phoenix Turn. Even when it was late at night, there were still countless people lining up to offer incense and worship. From the beginning to the end, Qin Fangyang, who was dressed in black, stood at the side of the grave like a clay sculpture and did not say a word. He seemed to be completely empty. His eyes were empty and unfocused. His injuries did not get better at all. He had been using his willpower and cultivation to endure. At this moment, he could no longer care about anything else. No one knew what he was thinking. Zhou Xiaoduo saw that he was not in a good condition, so he forced a few bottles of water and a few elixirs to him. When he was fed water, he would drink it. When he was given pills, he would eat them. However, all of his actions were carried out in a completely unconscious state. Hundreds of thousands of people came and went. Qin Fangyang had been standing like this for 3 days and 3 nights. Zhou Xiaoduo, Long Yusheng, and the others had been waiting with him. Zhou Xiaoyan rushed back to take care of Mu Yanyan. She gave Mu Yanyan the healing elixir that Zhou Changlu had bought for her. She was surprised to find that Mu Yanyan's serious injuries were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. It should be known that the serious injury that Mu Yanyan suffered this time was so serious that it damaged her life. Her origin was also damaged to a considerable extent. She had taken more than a dozen life origin elixirs for her current condition. It could not be said that there was no effect at all, but the effect was minimal. Mu Yanyan was seriously injured by her senior brother Jiang Zhilan's sneak attack, and her heart meridian was damaged. After that, he disregarded his injuries and attempted to activate his self-destruction technique, dragging Jiang Zhilan along with him. Although he was saved by Han Song's palm and luckily survived, he had already activated part of his technique. Adding to his injuries, it was difficult for him to recover from his injuries. Seeing that the life origin elixirs in her hand had been exhausted, but her injuries had not recovered. Zhou Xiaoyan suddenly remembered that when she said that she was about to break through, her father said that he had spent 1 million yuan to buy the life origin elixir for her. She had always regarded it as a treasure and had never thought of using it. At this moment, she thought of it and immediately took it out. Originally, Zhou Xiaoyan did not think that this elixir would have much effect. But she had never expected that this elixir not only worked, but also worked so well. Mu Yanyan's life was seriously injured and her origin was damaged. But it was not only fully replenished, but also a large amount of surplus vitality, which drove Mu Yanyan's cultivation to advance strongly. She rushed to the threshold of the cloud transformation realm in one breath, and all the remaining vitality was turned into the foundation. At that time, Mu Yanyan only needed to launch a little power, and she could complete the breakthrough naturally. With such amazing efficacy, how could Zhou Xiaoyan not be shocked? How could it be so strong? An elixir of 1 million star coins. An elixir of 1 million star coins. The life origin elixir of 1 million star coins was just the normal market price. Where did Dad buy such good stuff? Zhou Xiaoyan said in her heart, should I buy more as a backup? It's better to let Gouda buy more and store more. When Mu Yanyan woke up, it was too late for her to break through. She took Zhou Xiaoyan to He Yuanyue's tomb. She left just like that. Mu Yanyan stroked the tombstone and felt extremely sad. May we be friends again in the next life. Mu Yanyan bowed deeply. After Mu Yanyan paid her respects, she wanted to say a few words to Qin Fangyang, but Qin Fangyang completely ignored her, as if he had no sense of the outside world. Mu Yanyan lit 3 incense sticks, stretched out her hand, and drew a line with her fingers. 3 drops of blood fell in front of the tombstone, emitting a faint red light, and then turned into a cloud of blood mist and disappeared. 3 drops of blood, 3 lives of sisters. Mu Yanyan said sadly, I have to go back. This time, there were 2 traitors in the sect, and they almost caused a great disaster. The sect must give an explanation. When I come back, I will come to see you again. Rest in peace. Mu Yanyan turned and left. Master. Zhou Xiaoyan called her worriedly. Don't worry, I'm fine. Mu Yanyan stroked Zhou Xiaoyan's hair and said, you have to prepare well for the next period of time. Wait for me to come back. This time, I am also on the verge of breaking through. Go back to the mountain and break through. In this mortal world. Mu Yanyan showed a sad and helpless smile and shook her head gently, I don't dare to. Waving her hand, she floated away. Zhou Xiaoyan stayed, accompanying Zhou Xiaoduo and He Yuanyue to guard the tombstone. Jiang Zhongbin, Sun Fengho, Sister Lan, Long Yusheng, Wan Li Xiu, Li Zhongming, and others. More than 30 people were guarding the tombstone. 6 days later. Qin Fangyang finally moved. His body moved, but he only took 1 step forward, and his whole body fell to the ground. Seeing this, everyone exclaimed in unison. Zhou Xiaoduo rushed forward and helped him up. But they saw a trace of a smile on Qin Fangyang's withered face. However, after a long silence, this trace of a smile made everyone's heart jump. But Qin Fangyang didn't do anything that made everyone worried. He took the initiative to eat and drink some food, and after taking some pills, he didn't wait for anyone's help, and used his own power to catalyze and heal his injuries. I'm fine. The body of a cloud transformation realm cultivator is strong, extraordinary. After a long time, Qin Fangyang stood up, turned his head, and looked at He Yuanyue's tombstone. He said indifferently, she left so many things for me to complete. How can I collapse? I'm leaving. Qin Fangyang looked at He Yuanyue's tombstone and said softly, stay here, and wait for me obediently. When I'm done with these things, I'll come and accompany you. His tone was as if He Yuanyue was still alive, sitting in front of him, and their relationship had completely recovered. Qin Fangyang's expression and voice were full of affection and doting. Everyone, don't worry about me. Qin Fangyang looked at the tombstone and smiled gently, don't worry, I won't die, and I won't do anything stupid. Actually, I already knew it was you. Actually, you already knew that I knew it was you. Silly girl. You made me act with you for so long, is it still fun? On the tombstone, He Yuanyue looked at Qin Fangyang with a smile, and her eyes seemed to be filled with affection. So you watched me act, right? But did you see it? How you are now, how you were in the past, did your husband care? I don't care. Qin Fangyang stepped forward and slowly stroked the tombstone, saying softly, I don't care. You saw it, didn't you? Little girl. If there's a next life, you must let me recognize you. Qin Fangyang said gently, promise me. A whirlwind came, and the joss sticks and paper money danced in the wind, circling around Qin Fangyang as if He Yuanyue was answering him. Qin Fangyang's tears flowed freely, and he choked out, you must let me know that you're still in this mortal world. Otherwise, there's no meaning in me living. I'm going back now, and have a good rest. Tomorrow is the 7th day of your death, and I'll come tomorrow night to accompany you. I'm leaving in the morning of the day after tomorrow. I'm going to kill those two enemies, and then I'm going to do everything you asked me to do. Everything that you wish for, your husband will definitely accomplish for you. Qin Fangyang's face was full of tears. Qian. Leave everything to me, don't worry. Just like before, the person you trust the most is me, and the person you worry about the most is also me. My silly little girl. Sister Lan stepped forward quietly and said, Qin Fangyang, let's go together the day after tomorrow. Young mistress said before that if she goes, I'll take care of you for a while. Qin Fangyang's face was full of tears, but he smiled faintly. There's no need. Because I'm afraid that I'll fall in love with you, or you'll fall in love with me. I can't bear either outcome. Sister Lan's face was red. Qin Fangyang, what do you mean? Qin Fangyang said calmly, I don't believe that you don't understand the meaning behind her words. I know she means well. But I understand her intentions even more. What I want to do is to go through mountains of knives and seas of fire, and every step is life and death. If you and I are together, can we be safe and never get hurt? If we get hurt, won't we take care of each other? A single man and a single woman taking care of each other. Based on my personality and your personality, no matter who gets hurt or is in danger, we'll do everything to save each other. After that, everything will be logical and natural. Maybe that's what she wants to see, but it's definitely not what I want to see. So, there's no need. You have a life that belongs to you, and I have things that I must do. Qin Fangyang turned around and faced the tombstone. He said softly, don't make arrangements for me anymore, okay? On the tombstone, He Yuanyue was still smiling affectionately. Qin Fangyang turned and left. His clothes fluttered, and he was dozens of meters away in the blink of an eye. Zhou Xiaoduo, Li Chenglong, and the others called out at the same time, Teacher Qin. Qin Fangyang did not look back. He waved his hand with his back facing them. His body flashed a few times, and he disappeared without a trace. He did not say a word. On the 7th day of the 2nd day, the number of people who came to pay their respects suddenly increased. Everyone was busy for the whole day. At night, Qin Fangyang appeared on time. He was still dressed in black, and his movements were very neat. It was obvious that his injuries had improved greatly. He sat quietly in a secluded spot, closed his eyes, and did not speak or move. He ignored everyone. Even when Zhou Xiaoduo went forward to say a few words, Qin Fangyang still ignored him. Zhou Xiaoduo could only wring his hands and sigh at this. Since he was at a loss, he directly threw out a drop of Providence Point to confirm Qin Fangyang's recent luck. Only then did he feel slightly relieved. Then, he secretly stuffed a spatial ring into Qin Fangyang's pocket. Qin Fangyang noticed it, but he did not move or refuse. This kind of kindness could not be rejected. The night passed quickly. Qin Fangyang stood up and left with large strides. On this day, from the beginning to the end, he had not said a single word, not even uttered a single word. On the tombstone, He Yuanyue's eyes were still gently watching his back as he left. Qin Fangyang did not look back until his figure disappeared into the distance. He did not return to Second High. No one knew where he went. Perhaps it would be a long time before he returned to everyone's sight. Or perhaps, they would never see each other again. Sister Lan appeared in front of the tomb and smiled bitterly. Young mistress, you've arranged too many things. Please wait for me for a while. I have to go back to my hometown and arrange a cenotaph for you. Then, I'll come back to accompany you immediately. We've been together for a lifetime. You'll be lonely if I'm not around, right? Sister Lan leaned on the tombstone and muttered, wait for me for a few days. I'll be back. She slowly retreated more than 10 meters and bowed deeply. Wait for me to come back. A sword light rushed up. Sister Lan's figure flashed in the sky and disappeared. She went in a completely different direction from Qin Fangyang. At this point, there were only 10 people left in front of the tomb. Zhou Xiaoduo, Zhou Xiaonian, Long Yusheng, Wanli Xiu, Yu Moyan, Li Chengming, Li Chenglong, Jiang Zhongbin, Sun Fengho, and Hu Ruoyan. Li Changjiang was still the principal of Second High. He could not stay here for long. There were too many things in Second High that required his attention. Second High had suddenly lost the old principal, He Yuanyue, Qin Fangyang, and Sister Lan. Without the three leaders, their overall strength had dropped to the lowest point in history. Even if no one dared to provoke Second High in the short term, who knew what would happen in the future? These were all problems that Li Changjiang urgently needed to solve. Yu Moyan had been holding the jade pendant that He Yuanyue had given him the entire time. Old principal, I won't forget a single word you said. I'll definitely carry it out to the end. Those who should go back, go back. Hu Ruoyan said hoarsely, don't be willful. You all have your own things to do. Jiang Zhongbin, the old principal, is most worried about you. He's afraid that you'll be willful and throw a tantrum. He wants me to tell you. Do your job well. And your father, he's your biological father, not just me. Jiang Zhongbin answered blankly, but he still sat there without moving. 2 streams of tears streamed down his face again. The old principal was still concerned about him even before he died. Hu Ruoyan would never say such things about his biological father. Xiao Duo, go back and cultivate. There's still a long way to go. Come and visit the old principal often. Yes. Old son, you're not going to be the director of the martial arts bureau anymore? Why aren't you going back? Sigh. Jiang Zhongbin stared blankly at the tombstone and said, Monkey son, we have to take good care of this place. When the old principal was alive, she tried her best to stop us from sending gifts. But after she passed away, everyone's goodwill was buried together with her. We have to be careful of thieves coming to rob the tombstone. Sun Fengho's eyes shone sharply. Who dares to touch the old principal's tomb? I, Sun Fengho, will not live under the same sky as him. There's nothing lacking in this world, but there's no lack of thieves and greedy people. Jiang Zhongbin said calmly, no matter what, we have to take good care of this place. Let's take turns. Even if we can't come, we have to send someone we trust. Okay. Zhou Xiaoduo and the others walked for a long time. When they looked back, He Yuanyue's tombstone seemed to still be in front of them. That gentle and kind gaze seemed to still be looking at them. The 6 of them stopped at the same time and bowed deeply. Grandma He, don't worry. You've worked hard all your life. Have a good rest. We'll bring back everything you want to see. Volume 1, Dancing in Phoenix City, Seeking Tao in the Mortal World has ended. This chapter has 12,000 words. It's not suitable to split it, so I'll just publish it all at once. Then I'll start writing the summary. Chapter 305. Zhou Xiaoduo and Long Yusheng didn't go home until the wee hours of the morning. Zhou Xiaoduo went home and lay on the sofa. He felt like his whole body was falling apart. Zhou Xiaonian had replaced all the broken doors and windows in the house in the past few days. The house was also cleaned up. It was much cleaner than before. Teacher Qin said she wanted to see me touch her 3 times. But I don't know where she went. Zhou Xiaoduo complained on the sofa. Zhou Xiaonian was busy in the kitchen. When she heard Zhou Xiaoduo talking, she asked, "What did you say?" There was no response. Only the sound of snoring could be heard. Zhou Xiaoduo had fallen asleep. During this period of time, Zhou Xiaoduo was really tired. After 2.5 months of suspense, he actually fell asleep when he relaxed. At least for a short period of time, he didn't have to be on tenterhooks anymore. With his current innate level cultivation and his divine sense almost perfect, he could still be so tired. It was obvious that his physical and mental exhaustion had reached the extreme. It was no small matter. Zhou Xiaoyan walked out of the kitchen and walked to the sofa. She looked at his sleeping face silently. Her heart became calmer and calmer. The candlelight illuminated the soul and enlightened the heart. "Thank you, doggy." She gently bent down and kissed Zhou Xiaoduo's face. Then she jumped up like a thief and looked around. Her face was as red as a monkey's butt. No one. There was really no one. Zhou Xiaoyan slowly calmed down. She paused and lowered her head again. She pecked Zhou Xiaoduo on the lips with unparalleled speed. Then she bounced up immediately as if she had been electrocuted. The whole series of actions happened in a flash, like a phantom. Coupled with the nonchalant expression on his face, he was calm and indifferent. Only his heart was beating wildly. It had already betrayed him. "Humph, I'll let you take advantage of me," Zhou Xiaoyan muttered to herself. Zhou Xiaoduo, who had already fallen asleep, smacked its lips and pursed its lips. Zhou Xiaoyan was startled, thinking that she was not asleep. Only after taking a closer look did he confirm that he was indeed asleep. Only then was she relieved. She went forward again, picked up Zhou Xiaoduo and was about to put him on the bed, but she almost sprained her waist. So heavy. Could it be that this kid actually changed his own weight to 30,000 jin? Zhou Xiaoyan was puzzled. He gently removed all the weights from Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoduo was sleeping like a dead pig. He didn't have any reaction to a certain someone's hands on him. "Sure enough, it's 30,000 catties. When did you change it?" After a while, Zhou Xiaoyan carried him into the room and put him on the bed. She stared at his sleeping face for a long time. In the end, she giggled foolishly to herself before regaining her senses. She hurriedly pulled the blanket over him. Then she hurriedly slipped out of the room like a thief. Zhou Xiaoyan was in a good mood. She could not help but hum a song while washing the vegetables and rice. She was about to cook. She opened the refrigerator to see if there were any ingredients left. She frowned and thought for a while. Then she ran out to buy a few more vegetables and dozens of boxes of the best wine. She brought them home together. Dad is always reluctant to drink such good wine. Now that I've succeeded, I have no worries. I might as well buy more and store it. Zhou Xiaoyan felt a sense of accomplishment. Anyway, I'm using Xiaoduo's card. I suddenly feel very good. I'll cook a few more dishes to reward doggy. Do you want to drink some wine tonight? She blushed again as she thought about it. She put her hands on her waist and said fiercely, "Doggy. Don't think too much." Then she realized that doggy was still sleeping and everything was her imagination. She could not help but blush again. But after a while, she felt at ease again. She hummed a song and began to cook. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoyan's heart was only filled with indescribable happiness and peace. She wished that time would stop at this moment forever. Zhou Xiaoduo slept until 6 o'clock in the evening. During this time, he had more than a dozen dreams in succession. He did not know if it was because he was thinking about something during the day and dreaming at night, or because he could sense each other. Anyway, he dreamed about everything that he should and should not dream about. In his dream, Qin Fangyang appeared in a black suit and looked at him in the air in front of him. He was not as indifferent as he usually was. His face was heavy and his whole body was bleak. He said to him in a low voice, "Remember what I taught you. Don't embarrass me." Zhou Xiaoduo asked, "Teacher Qin, where are you going?" Qin Fangyang finally broke into a smile and said bitterly, "Where can I be at ease in the end of the world?" Then, he disappeared in a cloud of mist. Zhou Xiaoduo ran after him, "Teacher Qin, don't go. I still have something to say to you. Long Yusheng and the others dared to scold you. I heard it. Come back and beat them up." Then, a faint figure appeared in the cloud in front of him. "Teacher Qin." Zhou Xiaoduo ran after him in surprise. He Yuanhua looked at him kindly and said, "Xiaoduo, don't forget what I told you. Grandma He's lifelong wish is on you. Don't slack off. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to achieve something. Lai Feng, tell Grandma He later. Grandma He, I'll remember. Have you seen Teacher Qin? He left just now. He Yuanyue smiled and her face became blurry. I'll go and find him. Before her voice died away, He Yuanyue also disappeared. Zhuo Xiaoduo felt lost for a moment and murmured, "You all left? Why did you all leave?" In front of him, the sea of clouds was surging and the world was vast. In a trance, Mu Yanyan, dressed in white, came over coldly. She glanced at him and turned away without stopping. Zhuo Xiaoduo, you kicked your crotch again. I don't want you anymore. Zhuo Xiaoduo hurriedly explained, but they want to kill me. I need to protect myself. Mu Yanyan had already disappeared. How is it shameful to kick your crotch? Zhuo Xiaoduo murmured to himself, as long as you can paralyze the enemy's combat capability, you can kick anywhere you want. How is it shameful? This point of view is really strange. Suddenly, there was a person in front of him. He was using a bamboo cane to tap the ground as he slowly walked forward. The man's clothes were shabby, his figure was old, and his behavior was full of desolation. Godfather? Zhuo Xiaoduo looked at the man in surprise. Why are you here? Blind Hong stopped in his tracks and turned around. His white eyes rolled around as if he was looking at Zhuo Xiaoduo, but it also seemed like he was looking at something else. Suddenly, he let out a long sigh and said, "This is all fate. As expected, it's not up to anyone." Zhuo Xiaoduo was puzzled. Godfather, what's wrong with you? Since you're here, come home with me. You're so lonely and can't see. I'm worried. Blind Hong's expression seemed to be very complicated. He suddenly said angrily, "Don't call me Godfather. I'm not your godfather. Who wants to be your godfather?" Zhuo Xiaoduo wondered, "I remember that you were very happy at that time. You even gave me your life ring. Why don't you recognize it now?" Then he suddenly became vigilant and said, "You're not here to take back the ring, are you? That's mine. I can't give it back to you. It has already recognized me as its master. If I change my master's ring frequently, I won't be happy." Blind Hong was speechless. He rolled his eyes for a while. Suddenly, he sighed heavily and disappeared. There's no head or tail. I'm so confused. What are they trying to do? Zhuo Xiaoduo stood in the clouds in a daze. He scratched his head and couldn't figure out what was going on. The clouds in front of him moved again. Suddenly, a huge dragon head appeared in front of him. The dragon's eyes alone were almost as big as 10 of Zhuo Xiaoduo's heads. However, it looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo innocently and said, "Hi. Hi your ass." Zhuo Xiaoduo was still in shock. "You scared me to death." The dragon head looked very innocent. "Did I scare you?" "Humph. Am I too big?" The dragon head asked, feeling wronged. "You're just too big." Zhuo Xiaoduo realized that the dragon was actually quite cute. It didn't have any evil intentions towards him. Naturally, his fear disappeared. He asked tentatively, "What are you doing here?" "A little big?" "That's easy." The dragon head pondered for a while. Then, it shook its body. In an instant, it transformed into a Xiaolong that was only a dozen meters long. It looked quite cute. Then, it said, "How about this?" At this time, Zhuo Xiaoduo could already confirm that the dragon in front of him was clearly a baby dragon, the kind that had just been born for a few days. It was full of innocence. He said with interest, "It's good now, much better than before." Xiaolong tilted its head and said innocently, "Can we be friends?" Zhuo Xiaoduo said, "Sure, I have a lot of good things here." The dragon's eyes suddenly sparkled. Suddenly, a mountain of various treasures appeared in front of Zhuo Xiaoduo. It was dazzling. Drooling, it said, "You have more treasures than me." Damn! Zhuoxiaoduo's eyes widened. Where did you find so many treasures? I don't have as many as you do. Xiao Long immediately looked disappointed. Then, he encouraged, good luck. Then, he put away all the treasures in the mountain. Not a single one was left. Then, he looked at Zhuoxiaoduo expectantly. Oh, when are you coming to play with me? Where are you? Zhuoxiaoduo asked. I'm in Fenghai. Xiao Long was puzzled. Don't you know? How would I know? What are you talking about? Xiao Long was in high spirits. Why are you so poor? Do you have anything good for me? Zhuoxiaoduo scratched his head and said, I really don't have anything. I'm so poor. What can I give you? Xiaolong was very disappointed and said, there's nothing. Zhuoxiaoduo thought for a while and said, how about I give you a drop of this? As he said that, he took out a luck point and said leisurely, do you want this? This is good stuff. Xiao Long's eyes instantly became as bright as the sun. He nodded repeatedly, drooling. Yes, yes, yes. It's really good stuff. Here you go. Good friends should share wealth with each other. Zhuoxiaoduo generously threw the luck point over. It was a dream anyway. Xiao Long caught it in one gulp. Then, a satisfied look appeared on his face. You're so nice and generous. We're good friends. Do you have anything else? Give me more. Zhuoxiaoduo said expectantly, since you said that we're good friends, shouldn't you give me something too? Xiao Long immediately became vigilant and cried, I'm the one who's going to die of poverty. You still want something from me? Woo woo. As he cried, his body suddenly disappeared. He actually escaped. Fuck. Zhuoxiaoduo cursed. Fuck, he often heard people say that they were poor while sitting on a mountain of gold. This Xiao Long was even worse. He was sitting on a mountain of gold, but he still wanted to cry about being poor. This simply pushed the level of crying poverty to a whole new level. My luck points are really good stuff, but I didn't get anything back. What a loss. Then, the world returned to its original state. While Zhuoxiaoduo was confused, he was surprised to see a snow-white phoenix coming to his left. The phoenix frowned and looked at Zhuoxiaoduo. What are you doing here? Zhuoxiaoduo said, playing. The phoenix's body shook and turned into an adorable kitten. It meowed twice and said, do you recognize me? Zhuoxiaoduo laughed heartily and his eyes lit up. Nian Nian cat. Without saying a word, he picked up the kitten and stroked it up and down. He was having a great time. The cat in his arms also ran around Zhuoxiaoduo's body and seemed to be enjoying it. However, in a trance, the kitten turned into Zhuoxiaoyan again. She lay in his arms and said softly, Xiaoduo, can I be your wife? Zhuoxiaoduo was overjoyed. Okay, let's consummate our marriage now. Zhuoxiaoyan was very shy. No. Zhuoxiaoduo's wolf nature was unleashed. He went forward and pressed her down. Where are you going? He even laughed like a pervert. Wahahaha. Slap. Zhuoxiaoduo was slapped hard. A clear voice said, what are you laughing at? Zhuoxiaoduo turned over and opened his eyes. He was surprised to see Zhuoxiaoyan in front of the bed. His eyes lit up and he laughed. Nian Nian cat, come, let's consummate our marriage. He went forward and hugged Zhuoxiaoyan and pressed her down on the bed. Zhuoxiaoyan was furious. She was not willing to give in. With a few punches and kicks, she beat Zhuoxiaoduo until he was in pain. With another kick, Zhuoxiaoduo flew into the air and hit the wall. Then, he fell hard on the ground. It hurt. At this time, Zhuoxiaoduo finally woke up. He screamed, This is not a dream. Zhuoxiaoyan's face was red. She got up from the bed and pressed Zhuoxiaoduo down. She struck a pose like Wusong hitting a tiger. Little dog, you are really bold now. As she said that, she was about to punch him again. Zhou Xiaoduo was terrified. He begged for mercy. Sister Nian Nian. I was really dreaming just now, really. I'm not lying to you. I even dreamed of a dragon, a phoenix, and a phoenix turned into a kitten. I made you dream of all those weird things. Zhou Xiaonian pulled Zhou Xiaoduo up and dragged him to the faucet. He turned on the faucet and washed him with cold water. Are you awake? Are you awake? I'm awake, I'm awake. Zhou Xiaoduo wanted to cry. Dreams are better. Hurry up. Zhou Xiaonian left Zhou Xiaoduo and walked out. Her face was still red. She said angrily, there are guests at home. Guests? There are guests at home. Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned when he heard this. I just had a dream and there are guests at home. This is really. Is this reality or a dream? He checked subconsciously and couldn't help but be stunned. My luck point is really one less. Chapter 306. Zhou Xiaoduo was dumbfounded. I gave Xiao Long 1 point in my dream. But that was just a dream, okay? Why did I lose 1 point? It was real. It was just that 1 point was missing. Zhou Xiaoduo had always been very clear about what he had. Not to mention the fact that he had only accumulated 26 luck points up until now. Even if it was the balance in his bank account, he still remembered the number after the decimal point clearly. Losing 1 providence point was like the sky was collapsing. Zhou Xiaoduo almost fainted from the heartache. He was still a little confused. Even in my dream. I can't give things to people casually. Is the society now so complicated? That Xiao Long took my luck points but didn't give me anything. I've lost so much. The more Zhou Xiaoduo thought about it, the more he lost. He beat his chest and stamped his feet. Zhou Xiaonian's urging voice came from outside. Zhou Xiaoduo suppressed his sadness and hurriedly wiped his face. When he walked out, he was stunned. There were indeed guests in the living room. 3 women. One of them was the superstar Gu Luoyan. The other 2 women were cold and full of energy. They were Gu Luoyan's 2 divine shadow bodyguards. These 2 bodyguards had played a key role in the battle to protect the Phoenix Vein. If Fang Yinua's sudden appearance at the end had the effect of turning the tide, then these 2 bodyguards were the key to dragging the situation all the way to the final moment. At this moment, the 3 of them were looking at Zhou Xiaoduo with half-smiles. Ayaya. Superstar, we are honored by your presence. Sorry for the lack of manners. Sorry for the lack of welcome. Zhou Xiaoduo looked enthusiastic and hurried forward. Do you want tea or plain water? I have some water here. You didn't hear anything just now, right? Gu Luoyan smiled faintly. What cat, consummation? We didn't hear anything. Yes, yes. If you put it that way, I'll believe you. Zhou Xiaoduo's expression didn't change. As he brewed the tea, he said, I'm an extremely emotional creative genius. You should also understand that if a person has any burdens in his heart, especially if there's something that makes him unhappy, then he can't even write a single song. My emotions are so weak that no one else can. Can you understand? Gu Luoyan smiled and said, Second sister, your brother is threatening us. Sister. Beat him up. Zhou Xiaonian's voice rang out in the kitchen. Second sister. Big sister. Zhou Xiaoduo was surprised. You? Nian Nian and I find each other pleasing to the eye. We've already become sworn sisters. Gu Luoyan smiled and said, Xiaoduo, you have to be more respectful to big sister in the future. Zhou Xiaoduo was completely dumbfounded. I'm still dreaming, right? It should still be, right? It must be. How did this happen all of a sudden? He quickly used the excuse of making tea as an excuse to run to the kitchen. What's going on? Zhuxiaoyan, you've really got guts. Mom and Dad aren't home and you brought him home. You even became sworn sisters with him. Do you know what kind of person he is? Zhou Xiaoduo was very dissatisfied. How am I supposed to take advantage of you like this? No matter what Sister Yan's original intention was, she did help us a lot in the end. How can I not agree when she wants to be sworn sisters? Zhou Xiaoyan frowned. Hurry up and go entertain the guests. I'm cooking. You're cooking. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. Are you sure you're not trying to poison your sister to death? Zhou Xiaoduo. Zhou Xiaoyan flipped out. Zhou Xiaoduo ran out of the kitchen with his head in his hands. Gu Luoyan didn't feel offended at all. She smiled and sent an audio file to Zhou Xiaoduo's phone. Xiaoduo, listen to this. This is the new version of Bloodstained Elegance that I've revised several times. Zhou Xiaoduo opened the audio file and joked, Sister Yan, you have to be careful. Don't send me any audio files that are not suitable for children. I'm still young. Gu Luoyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She raised her hand and was about to hit him. I'll beat you to death. Listen to the music. Listen to the music. Zhou Xiaoduo raised his hand. The prelude has already started. Look at you. You're a big star and a music expert. You can't keep your cool at all. Gu Luoyan almost vomited to death. She kept rolling her eyes. On the other hand, the two divine shadows had a smile on their cold faces. It was rare to see Gu Luoyan lose her composure like this. This Zhou Xiaoduo seemed to be born with a sense of intimacy, making people unable to dislike him at all. Yes, although she would always be angered by him to the point of wanting to beat him up, it was difficult for her to take action. In the end, it was very difficult for her to truly hate him. It felt like they were their own naughty children. Naughty children were different from naughty children. They could be beaten and scolded, but they would never hate them. The audio was turned on. The prelude was beautiful but heroic. Gu Luoyan's voice sounded with a touch of sadness. Maybe I'll say goodbye. Zhou Xiaoduo closed his eyes and listened until the end. He didn't make any comments, but he frowned. How is it? Gu Luoyan felt uneasy at this moment. She was an expert in music theory, and she felt that she had already displayed her own attainments in the song Bloodstained style to the fullest. To her, it was already perfect. But at this moment, facing Zhou Xiaoduo's evaluation, he actually felt very guilty. He asked himself, did I do my best? Did I do my best? The purpose of this song is to move people's hearts. It's not to use the music to move people's hearts. The rhythm of your song is too sad. Too much is as bad as not enough. I suggest you add more drum beats to match it. Other than that, there are no big problems. The climax of this song. If you can add more harmonies and make it heavier, it should be much better. Gu Luoyan's eyes lit up. She immediately wrote down Zhou Xiaoduo's suggestions. With her knowledge in music theory, she had already played the song in her mind when Zhou Xiaoduo talked about it. Although she was in a trance for a moment, she knew how good it was. She couldn't help but admire it. And your voice? Zhou Xiaoduo thought for a while and finally decided to be blunt. It's too sad. This song is indeed sad, but sadness only accounts for 1/3 of the weight. Zhou Xiaoduo said in a deep voice, the sacrifice without regrets, the courage to face life and death, the feeling of indifference to life and death, and the pride of a hero. That's the most important thing. You put too much emphasis on the sadness. You're putting the cart before the horse. Gu Luoyan thought for a while and said, can you make it clearer? It's just that. Zhou Xiaoduo thought for a moment and said, my original intention in composing this song wasn't to make people cry. Do you understand? I want people to be excited after listening to it. They want to rush to the sun and moon pass. To fight. Can you understand this kind of atmosphere? Zhou Xiaoduo said, there's heroism in the heaviness. There's sublimation in the sadness. There's no regret even if you have to sacrifice yourself. You're in deep thought and full of passion. That's about the feeling. Gu Luoyan frowned and started to search for this feeling. Zhou Xiaoduo said indifferently, if you still can't grasp it, you might as well think about it from another angle. Temporarily throw this song to the back of your mind, and think about those warriors who are fighting in front of you. Actually, each of them, when they leave their hometown to go to the Sun-Moon Pass. Maybe some of them want to make a name for themselves, bring glory to their ancestors, and bring glory to the future generations. But most of them have a kind of the wind is blowing, the water is cold, and the brave warriors will never return. This kind of attitude. That is to say, since they leave home to go to the Sun and Moon Pass, to go to the front line, they are prepared to sacrifice themselves. So life and death, for them, is too normal. It's not even worth mentioning. What they care about is the value of their deaths, their sacrifices, and what kind of value they can show. Zhou Xiaoduo frowned and said, Star Luoyan, forgive me for being blunt. Although you've sung a lot of songs, your eyes and mind are mostly on those warriors, the widows and families of those heroes. Only the heroes themselves. Forgive me for being blunt. Maybe you don't understand. Zhou Xiaoduo said sharply, if so, you can't sing this song well. The song is the heart. I don't need to tell you this. Gu Luoyan was sweating. She was speechless for a while. Gu Luoyan pondered for a long time. Then she stood up and bowed respectfully. Thank you, Brother Xiaoduo. I've learned a lot. I'll go back and edit it. Then I'll come back to you. Zhou Xiaoduo asked curiously, I thought you could only stay here for 5 days. Why haven't you left yet? I'm not going to take the blame for this. Gu Luoyan smiled bitterly. You really have to take the blame for this. It's the plan you proposed. Governor Zhang of South Ji City thought it was a great idea. Now, everyone in South Ji City is holding this selection. The atmosphere is very warm. So Governor Zhang and I discussed and asked me to postpone it for a few more days. Because the atmosphere hasn't reached the boiling point yet. Gu Luoyan smiled bitterly. Forget it. I've completely become a tool for once. Zhou Xiaoduo thought for a while and said, if that's the case, then will there be a problem with South Ji City's selection? We need to be careful of those families of the officials who use the name of the widows of the heroes to occupy the first-class seats. It's the age of the internet. A photo or a video can be known by the whole world. Gu Luoyan said, they won't dare to do this. Besides asking people to strictly enforce the rules, I've also sent the public order squad to ensure that everything goes smoothly. This time, I'm really showing my sincerity to the families of the heroes. Zhou Xiaoduo narrowed his eyes and said, but if that's the case, isn't the 1,000 tickets you promised too little? Indeed, it's too little. Gu Luoyan frowned. No matter what, there are some who can't go. Over the years, the number of martial heroes who have been sacrificed or disabled is more than tens of millions. Zhou Xiaoduo suggested, then how about another 1,000? 2,000? Or 3,000? Gu Luoyan. The previous 1,000 tickets were personally given by you, Big Star. Didn't South Ji City do anything about it? Zhou Xiaoduo egged him on. Logically speaking, South Ji City should give more. Otherwise, the so-called promotion will just be a gimmick. It'll be hard to avoid criticism in the future. You're right. It's more in line with the benefits of the martial heroes, and it'll be easier for South Ji City to accept. Gu Luoyan pondered. But how can I make it happen? Will it be effective if I say it directly? Zhou Xiaoduo said confidently, of course, it won't be effective if you say it directly, but if you use public opinion. Cough 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 cough. The two divine shadows who were drinking tea choked when they heard this. This kid was really scheming. This was to let South G City gain the benefits of reputation. Even if it wasn't to the point where they couldn't get any benefits, it would still reduce their vested interests. Gu Luoyen didn't care about money, so it didn't matter. But if South G City did this, they would have to cough up a considerable portion of the profits. At this time, a delicious aroma filled the air. Zhou Xiaoyan made a table full of dishes and brought them out one after another. When all the dishes were served, she even opened a bottle of wine. It was the top-grade wine that she had specially bought. But the 5 people present weren't good drinkers, especially Zhou Xiaoduo, who had drunk too much last time. He still had lingering fears when he saw wine, so he didn't dare to drink it. When he opened the bottle of wine, no one came to support him, so he awkwardly closed it again. After the meal, Gu Luoyen and the others didn't stay any longer. They immediately bid farewell and left. Obviously, they were in a hurry to go back and edit the music score. Although Zhou Xiaoduo had only given a few pointers, he had directly pointed out the key points. It was as if he had been enlightened, and it was time for his thoughts to surge. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan worked together and quickly cleared the table. Then, they washed the dishes. This kind of atmosphere gave birth to an extremely novel feeling. It was like a young couple who had just formed a family and was experiencing the atmosphere of living together for the first time. Duo dog. Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes moved. Nian cat. Zhou Xiaoduo replied softly. Duo dog. Nian cat. Dog. Cat. I'll beat you to death. What did you call me? Puff puff puff. Ah. Inexplicably, the atmosphere suddenly changed. The two of them immediately wrestled with each other. The originally warm and harmonious atmosphere was gone. After a long time, Zhou Xiaoduo sat on the sofa and imitated Zhou Changlu's behavior as the head of the family. He held the newspaper and read it. Beside his hand, there was a cup of green tea. It was quite vivid. If he hadn't poured that cup of green tea himself, it would have been even more similar. Only his red ears clearly showed that the head of the family had just been abused. Zhou Xiaoyan finished cleaning the room and sat opposite Zhou Xiaoduo. She also made a cup of tea for herself and stretched her straight and round long legs lazily and elegantly. She was 1.73 meters tall, but she had long legs that were more than 1 meters. Zhou Xiaoduo secretly looked at her and wanted to touch her legs. He warned her, "Your proportions are wrong. It should be according to my touch here, then this, then that." He thought about it for a long time, but in the end, he didn't dare to do it. Begging for votes. 2 chapters today. This chapter also costs 4,000 yuan. Something came up and I accompanied my wife back to her parents' house. Chapter 307. Why did you become sworn brothers with Gu Luoyen? I didn't like that girl before. Zhou Xiaoduo started to make things difficult for her. She insisted on becoming sworn brothers with me. She lent me 2 God's shadows to help me get through a dangerous situation. She took the initiative to ask me to become sworn brothers with her, which lowered her status. If I backed down now, it would be pretentious. Zhou Xiaoyan explained weakly. Humph. She lent me the God's shadows and I won the prize. How can I owe her a favor? Even if I owe her a favor, it's mine. It has nothing to do with you. Let me tell you, her purpose is definitely not pure. She's obviously after me. Zhou Xiaoduo said earnestly, "Let me tell you, Nian cat, you're the one who invited the wolf into the house. If I can't resist the temptation and have feelings for that lonely goose, you'll lose everything. It's not like you don't know how handsome I am and how popular I am with girls." No way. Zhou Xiaoyan widened her eyes. Obviously, she couldn't follow Zhou Xiaoduo's train of thought. Humph, think about her attitude towards me today. It was like she worshipped me. Didn't you see it? Someone said proudly with his nose in the air. Even if she has feelings for you, will you fall for Gu Luoyan? Zhou Xiaoyan asked worriedly. Zhou Xiaoduo waved his hand casually, of course. Suddenly, he became alert and said seriously, of course not. She's a superstar, but she doesn't have the elegance of a real superstar. Her image is not good enough. I don't like her at all. Zhou Xiaoyan rolled her eyes. How's your cultivation after the breakthrough? How do you feel? Is your foundation solid? Zhou Xiaoduo asked. I feel very good. Speaking of this, Zhou Xiaoyan's face glowed. Then, he sighed and said, these few days, I spent quite a lot of money. For all the teachers who sacrificed themselves to protect me. I went to each of their houses. We don't have much money, so I only kept 200,000 for each of them. In total, I spent 7 million. Zhou Xiaoyan sighed softly, in addition to all my savings, I also spent 3 million on your card. But I still feel indebted to them. Zhou Xiaoduo heard this and became silent. After a long time, he said in a low voice, see. Can you help me ask the government to take care of the teachers' families? Their children's school fees. Ask them to apply for a discount. It's best if it's completely free. Sigh. We're still too weak. Our words. Zhou Xiaoyan sighed, I succeeded in the breakthrough and my future is bright. But when I saw the heavy atmosphere in each family, I felt worse. If it weren't for their sacrifice, how could I have broken through so smoothly? Maybe some people will say that this is a matter of the fate of the continent. But after all, they protected me. Xiao Duo, we can't forget this kindness. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded heavily, yes. He could be cruel and merciless to any enemy, but he was soft-hearted to his own people, especially those who suffered because of his family. In the future, when you and I are strong, don't forget these people who helped us. We won't dare to forget them for the rest of our lives. Zhou Xiaoyan said in a low but determined voice. Yes. Zhou Xiaoduo agreed without hesitation. There was no trace of his usual stinginess. As long as you and I don't die, no one can bully them. Clap. The brother and sister high-fived each other and solemnly made this vow. After a long silence, they talked about the breakthrough. The inner core realm, I've finally reached. My inner core realm seems to be a little different from others. Zhou Xiaoyan said with a frown. Master Qin once seriously mentioned that when one's cultivation reaches a bottleneck, one should try to squeeze as much energy out of one's dantian as possible and repeatedly calm the agitated true yuan to break through. Begging for mercy was futile, so he could only hold his head and howl, passively taking the beating. After a while, Zhou Xiaoyan finally stopped, but her face was still cold. No matter how Zhou Xiaoduo apologized and played tricks, she still ignored him. The evils he brought on himself were the hardest to bear. Zhou Xiaoduo shook his head and wagged his tail, trying his best. However, Zhou Xiaoyan's face was still cold, and she did not show any mercy. Zhou Xiaoduo knew that Zhou Xiaoyan was really angry this time. He scratched his head and said, according to what you said, you have 2 inner cores in the inner core realm. Doesn't that mean your body is at least twice as strong as the average inner core cultivator? And the size of your inner core is so big. How can I surpass you in the future? Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes moved, but she was still cold and did not say a word. Speaking of which, I'm really lucky. Although I've planned a lot, I never thought that you would benefit from this disaster. You've suppressed your cultivation for so many times. This kind of achievement should be unprecedented, especially since you're so beautiful. Right now, I feel a great sense of danger. What should I do? Zhou Xiaoduo secretly looked at Zhou Xiaoyan from the corner of his eyes. Zhou Xiaoyan was still cold. I don't know where Mom and Dad went. Now that they've completed the breakthrough, they're not back yet. Do you think they'll have another child? Then my status in the family will be lowered by another level. Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly thought of something and blurted it out. Zhou Xiaonian's eyes moved, and her lips moved. She wanted to scold him, but in the end, she did not say anything. Why don't we go and get the certificate first? This way, both of us will feel more at ease. Zhou Xiaoduo touched his chin and said, you know where to put the household register, right? We have the ID card. Zhou Xiaonian still did not say a word, but her face was blushing. The big exam is in a few days. Sigh, these days they've been discussing which high martial arts school to go to. How would I know which high martial arts school is suitable for me? Zhou Xiaoduo sighed more and more. Zhou Xiaonian restrained herself and tried hard to show an indifferent attitude. Why don't we get the certificate first? Zhou Xiaoduo smiled mischievously and said, what if you're seduced by someone else? Zhou Xiaonian's face turned cold again. By the way, our household registers are in the same household register. I don't think we can get a marriage certificate. Our current situation seems to be called fake blood relatives. The law is very ambiguous about our situation. If it is really not allowed, then it will be a big problem. Zhou Xiaoduo frowned and said, how do you think we should solve this problem? Zhou Xiaonian looked up at the chandelier, and her spiritual eyes moved quietly. You're going to study in a few days, and we'll have to part ways. Sigh. Zhou Xiaoduo was worried and said, there are so many troublesome things. I just wanted to rest for a few days, but there are still so many things to deal with. Zhou Xiaonian's face softened, and there was a hint of sadness. Why don't we make it a fact and get married? Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly said, and his words were earth-shattering. Get out of here. Zhou Xiaonian could not hold back anymore. She scolded with a red face, do you believe that I won't be able to hold back and slap you to death? After saying that, she stood up and walked into the room, and slammed the door shut. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed foolishly outside, and did not feel offended at all. He he he. He he he. Sitting alone in the living room and drinking tea, he tried to control himself and not think about many things. He did not think about Qin Fangyang, He Yuanyue, and Mu Yanyan. He had been talking nonsense for so long, but he still could not let it go. Soon, Zhou Xiaonian also came out with a melancholy face. Yes, he really could not let it go. The people who were so important to him had all left. How could he let it go with a few words? I'm thinking about Grandma He. Zhou Xiaonian said sadly. Me too. Zhou Xiaoduo was silent. His mouth, which was always good at talking, had become a sawmouth gourd. Now that Zhou Xiaonian had made a breakthrough, his battle prowess had increased tremendously. Although he had just made a breakthrough, there was no doubt that he could defeat an ordinary infant transformation realm cultivator with his origin core realm battle prowess. This was undoubtedly great news. Not to mention that she had the power of the phoenix soul in her body. Her foundation was unfathomable, and her future was limitless. This was something to be happy about, but the two of them were not happy at all. They did not even have the desire to explore the depth of their combat power after breaking through. I really hope I won't encounter such things again in the future. Zhou Xiaonian sat in front of the window, hugging her knees, and looked up at the moon in the sky. Chapter 308. Zhou Xiaoduo also walked over and looked up at the moon. What he was thinking was, where did Teacher Qin go? And Sister Lan, where did she go? And Fang Yinhua from the Umno Alliance. Where did she go? And the girl from the Umno Alliance who found her parents, where did she go? Would she become an unstable factor in the future? Lastly, where was Meng Chen-Tian who had gone missing? Was he plotting something again? Compared to the disappointment of Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaonian, the governor's mansion and shield were in a state of jubilation. Except for Director Jiang Zhongbin, who had just returned and looked at everyone with a gloomy face, the others were all beaming with joy and cheering thunderously. This time, the humans from the Astral Souls had wiped out all the hidden forces of the Umno Alliance in Phoenix City. All the spies that had been hidden for decades had been uprooted in one fell swoop. This was undoubtedly a huge victory. Not to mention the success of the Phoenix Pulse Soul layout, the benefits were even greater. Other than the compensation for the dead and injured, the celebration banquet was also a must. 1,000 miles away. Qin Fangyang, who was dressed in black, was walking alone in the wilderness with a pale face. Like a wisp of smoke, he climbed to the highest point of a mountain. Finally, he could not help but turn around and look behind him. He could no longer see the other side. However, Qin Fangyang could still feel that there was a pair of eyes staring at him from the other side. Fangyang, take care of yourself. Yes, I will. Qin Fangyang nodded silently. He felt an indescribable bitterness in his heart. He took out the ring that Zhou Xiaoduo had given him. This spatial ring was stuffed into his pocket by Zhou Xiaoduo. He did not know when it was. When he opened it to check the contents, he could not help but be moved. Strictly speaking, there wasn't much inside. It was just 300,000 yuan in cash and gifts from Long Yusheng, Wan Li Xiu, Li Changming, Yu Moyan, and Li Chenglong. However, the Jade of Astral Souls given by Zhou Xiaoduo was very different from the commonly seen Jade of Astral Souls. It was black. A total of 30 pieces. This is the highest quality Jade of Astral Souls. Qin Fangyang took a deep breath and turned around. He seemed to see Zhou Xiaoduo's cheeky grin. There was also a letter inside. Teacher Qin, I don't think you'll need too much money. I'm still so poor, so I can only give you this much. In addition, I'll give you a few black stones to play with. Don't think it's too little, he. Qin Fangyang shook his head and laughed in spite of himself. Giving something away and writing a letter already made people want to beat him up. Was this a normal black stone? He casually took out so many high-quality Jade of Astral Souls and still complained about being poor. This little bastard. Suddenly, he had the urge to turn around, grab this kid, and kick him 100 shuttlecocks. Then, there were messages from Wan Li Xiu, Long Yusheng, and Li Chenglong. Qin Fangyang's heart warmed when he saw the few words that were filled with concern. He felt very comforted. They're all good kids. You must work hard. Qin Fangyang sighed softly. He looked at them longingly before his figure shot into the night sky like an arrow. At the same time, there was another person who was also looking at Phoenix City from 1,000 miles away. That was Meng Qintian. It's a failure. It's a complete failure. As an emissary, Meng Qintian did not show up after arranging the killing of Phoenix City. When the operation began, he had already left the city. He quietly waited for the final outcome of the situation. When the killing wolf starlight array in the sky collapsed, Meng Qintian simply moved and quickly left the boundary of Phoenix City. When Fang Yinhua contacted him again, Meng Qintian had already changed his appearance and settled down in Antai City. Sir Emissary, the operation has failed. Fang Yinhua's voice was extremely weak, as if he was enduring great pain. Meng Qintian asked indifferently, how many people survived? Only myself. I've already lost 70% of my life. Sir Emissary, you should throw away this number and disappear immediately. Meng Qintian was silent for a moment. What about you? I'll think of a way to leave. Fang Yinhua said. I'm still confident in staying alive. Good. Meng Qintian did not hesitate and crushed the phone. His eyes flashed. Only Fang Yinhua survived? This Fang Yinhua is not a small problem. No matter what the reason was, in the end, he was the only one who survived. Whether there was a problem or not, he had to die. I can't put him in an important position in the future. Meng Qintian's face was gloomy. He silently threw the phone into the trash can beside him and immediately walked out as if nothing had happened. After changing 4 or 5 identities, He settled down in a small hotel beside Antai City gate. Evacuate as soon as possible. After so many years of planning, it's all gone in one day. Even the Meng family's foundation that was originally in my hands is gone. I'll take this as a reflection. That night, Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaonian, who were tossing and turning, could not sleep, suddenly remembered something important. It was something that had been forgotten by Zhou Xiaoduo, but it could solve the urgent problem at hand. Collect the spoils of war and make money from the dead. Zhou Xiaoduo had previously fought against 100 people. Although the grade of the spatial rings he had snatched was not high, there were still a lot of them. He opened them one by one and gathered the funds and resources one by one. It had to be said that there were not many cultivation materials in these low-grade spatial rings, and the quality was also poor. However, there was a lot of cash. After checking all the spatial rings, there were more than 5 million star yuan in cash and tens of thousands of mid-grade astral souls jade. There were also various elixirs, various saber, sword, and footwork manuals. I'm not interested in the rest. Zhou Xiaonian put the 5 million star yuan into her spatial ring and said, I'll give you the rest. I'll give this money to the family members of the seniors who sacrificed themselves in the Phoenix Pulse. Zhou Xiaoduo agreed. That's not a problem. However, you shouldn't give it all at once. I'm afraid that it might be dangerous for them. It's better to split it up, monthly or yearly. Don't give them too much at once. It'll bring disaster to them. They've lost their pillar of support and can't withstand the storm. Zhou Xiaonian suddenly understood. That's true. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed softly. It's just that we don't have enough money. If we have enough money, we can consider setting up a trust fund to give money to the family members who sacrificed themselves in the war. That would be ideal. Oh right, let's take a look at these saber, sword, footwork, and other secret manuals. Although they may seem low-grade, these are all methods from the UMNO Alliance. It's better to know than not. Zhou Xiaoduo suggested, who knows, we might be able to dig out some treasures. No one said that low-grade martial arts can't have outstanding effects, right? The possibility is very small. However, what you said makes sense. We can use other people's techniques to improve jade. There's no harm in taking a look. Perhaps there's really something we can learn from. Didn't Dad always ask us to modify the rain sword and storm sword? Zhou Xiaoduo suggested, I'm thinking that if we're familiar with it, there's no harm in separating out some of the best moves and integrating them into other martial arts. It'll be enough to make us look like we're right, but actually not right. Even if someone asks, with today's event as a foreshadowing, we already have a lot of low-grade martial arts from the UMNO Alliance. It's not surprising that we occasionally have a few high-end moves. That's a good idea. Dad warned us first. There must be a reason for that. It's the best choice if we try to avoid it. In this world, Zhou Xiaonian had 3 people she could trust unconditionally, Zhou Changlu, Wu Yuding, and Zhou Xiaoduo. As for the others, even Mu Yanyan was a little inferior. It was not that Mu Yanyan couldn't be trusted, but Zhou Xiaonian felt that Kunlun Taoism was too complicated through this series of events. And Mu Yanyan was just a cultivation maniac in the sect. Zhou Xiaonian even felt that her master knew more about the ways of the world than she did. In the morning, Zhou Xiaoduo came to school very early, but he didn't plan to read people's fortune today. Originally, as the temperature recovered, even the heavy snow had already melted away. Today, there were a lot of people lining up to read people's fortune. Master Zhou hadn't read people's fortune for a week, and those who wanted to ask for advice were all anxious. But this time, Master Zhou still said something with an apologetic face and entered the school. I'll start reading people's fortune tomorrow. During this time, I've been mentally unbalanced, so it may not be accurate. Please forgive me. Entering the school, everyone's eyes were red, whether it was the teachers or the students. Although a few days had passed, everyone was still immersed in the matter of He Yuanyue's death and hadn't recovered yet. Entering the class, the students of the 9th class were all there, but everyone's mood showed an exceptionally low state. One by one, they sat in their seats and looked at the podium. From time to time, they looked at the door. Everyone was waiting for a miracle. Maybe Qin Fangyang's tall and straight figure would walk through the door with a straight face again. Everyone's eyes were filled with speechless hope. Zhou Xiaoduo thought for a while and stood on the podium. He knocked on the table with his hand and said in a low voice, "Students, there's no need to wait any longer. Teacher Qin has already left." Everyone's expression changed at a rate visible to the naked eye, and then it became sad. Many of the female students' eyes were already glistening with tears. Bai Bingbing laid on the table and sobbed. She would never forget how Teacher Qin used his own cultivation to guide her cultivation, to guide her forward, to establish her sword heart, and to tell her, "Girls, don't be a vase in your life. If you want something, wait until you're strong, then fight for it." These words were deeply imprinted in the depths of Bai Bingbing's heart. This slightly vain and somewhat arrogant girl completely changed herself from then on. Teacher Qin may have left, but before he left, he asked me to pass on a message to all of you. Chapter 309. Zhou Xiaoduo stood on the podium and said loudly. What did he say? Everyone raised their heads and looked at him with bright eyes. Mr. Qin said. Zhou Xiaoduo's face was calm and steady. He finally gave up on fooling around and said cleanly. Mr. Qin said that he has taught you everything that he can. How far you can go in the future depends on your own choice and hard work. He also said that he hopes that when people mention your names in the future, he will not feel embarrassed. This is the only request he has for us after teaching us for so long. Zhou Xiaoduo said. The faces of the boys and girls in the class lit up. Bai Bingbing sobbed and shouted, I will not embarrass Mr. Qin. I will not embarrass Mr. Qin because of me. Me too. For a moment, the whole class was boiling. If that's the case, why don't you go and practice? Why don't you go and practice? All of you are just sitting here doing nothing. Even if you shout the slogan loudly, will you be able to make Teacher Qin proud? After saying this, Zhou Xiaoduo walked down from the podium. I'm going to the gravity room now. Let's go to the school to apply for a mission and practice. Work hard to become stronger and fight for the chance to meet Mr. Qin again. I can proudly tell him that I did not embarrass him. Let's go together. Let's go together. At noon, when everyone had just finished eating, they received a notice that Luo Lai would be taking over Qin Fangyang's class. Luo Lai, who received the news, smiled crookedly. It was worth it for him to threaten Li Changjiang and give him 2 bottles of good wine. If he had not threatened him, he would not have gotten the chance. In front of the gravity room. How many times have you suppressed the restlessness of your true yuan? Zhou Xiaoduo asked Long Yusheng and the other 4. These 5 people were now in the same state as Zhou Xiaoduo in the past. Even when walking, they had to clamp their legs together. They didn't dare to exert any force, lest they break through. Li Chenglong's face was distorted. I've already done it 7 times. It's really uncomfortable now. I don't even dare to fart. Zhua, this is too uncomfortable. Wan Li Xiu's face was flushed red. Although Miss Wan's personality was that of a real man, the feeling of holding back and not breaking through again and again was really difficult and tiring. Not to mention, her family's conditions were excellent. Her spiritual medicine, spiritual pills, and cultivation resources were much better than others. Now, she had really reached her limit. I haven't gone to the toilet for 3 days. Wan Li Xiu blushed. Now, I feel like I'm about to break through even if I'm just taking a breath. Just as they were talking, there was a puff from the side. It was Umo Yan farting. Then, they saw Umo Yan's pale face. His expression was indescribable. His face was distorted, and he muttered in disappointment, It's over, I broke through, I can't hold it in anymore. The others were covering their noses, their faces distorted. They didn't know if this sound was the fuse or something else, but it actually caused a chain reaction. Long Yusheng also had a change, he also broke through. But Umo Yan's fart was extraordinary, it was not vulgar at all. A foul stench filled the air. Zhou Xiaoduo covered his nose and ran away in embarrassment. His movement speed was very fast. Wanli Xiu also covered her nose and ran out, but when she reached the door, she suddenly stopped running, squatted down and screamed, "Oh no, I also broke through." Then, it was Li Chenglong. The little fatty wanted to cry and laugh at this scene, but he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the end, while his mood was fluctuating, his vital energy took advantage of this and rushed up, he suddenly couldn't control himself. Ha! Only one ha came out. Li Chenglong wanted to restrain himself and then, with a poof, he also broke through. In the end, Li Chongming also announced that he was defeated. On this day, Wanli Xiu and the other 4 people broke through almost at the same time. It could be said to be a good story, but the taste was not very good to say. Luo Lai excitedly came to receive his students. When he reached the door of the gravity room, he saw the situation at a glance. The 5 people's faces were all distorted. Wanli Xiu was squatting alone behind a tree, her face was extremely ugly, there was an indescribable sense of loss. And tears. What's wrong? Luo Lai moved closer to the few boys to ask, but suddenly, he smelled a stench. Immediately, he was hit by the stench. Damn! Luo Lai teacher was caught off guard, he subconsciously covered his nose. Who did this? I. And me. Luo Lai teacher was stunned. The 4 of you gathered together and farted? What are you playing at? Luo Lai could not understand, his brain short-circuited. What kind of hobby is this? No. No. Long Yusheng covered his nose, it's like this. After listening to the explanation, Luo Lai was even more confused. You mean the 5 of you, including Wanli Xiu? Because Umo Yan could not hold back and farted, it caused a chain reaction, and the 5 of you broke through to the Xiantian realm. Yes, yes. Long Yusheng hurriedly changed his words, Xiu Er should not have broken through from farting. She. He still had to work hard to save his fiancée's face. Wanli Xiu's embarrassed and angry voice came from the other side, Long Yusheng, shut up. A fart. The 5 of them broke through to the Xiantian realm. This was a good fart. Luo Lai was very pleased, and he praised, what a good fart. Luo Lai was originally surprised, but his face gradually turned from surprise to distortion. There was no other reason, he realized that the stench around them did not dissipate, instead, it became more and more intense. As an expert in cultivation, how could he not know that as the few of them broke through to the Xiantian realm, their vital energy was in an unprecedented state, causing the impurities in their bodies to be expelled from their bodies. Everything started to flow out. The few men felt embarrassed, and covered their faces, not daring to look at others. As for Wanli Xiu, she was even more embarrassed, and did not dare to move. This is a good thing, don't be silly, quickly go and wash up more, and make sure you are clean. Luo Lai immediately played his role as a teacher, and directly emptied the school's teacher's bathroom. Quickly prepare the hot water, we will be there soon. Zhou Xiaoduo watched from afar, almost laughing his guts out. He had experienced a similar situation before, and naturally knew the situation of the few of them. He was not worried at all, and only found it funny. He held his phone in his hand, and recorded this embarrassing scene to his heart's content, especially Wanli Xiu, who recorded a few more scenes than the others. Such a dark history. He must definitely record it. In the future. When the 5 of them were taken to the bathroom by Luo Lai, Zhou Xiaoduo's phone had already recorded several precious moments for each of them, and it was worth reminiscing for a long time. What a pity that this phone can only record images, and not smells. It would be better if it could record smells, but technology is still not advanced enough. Zhou Xiaoduo put away his phone, looked up to the sky and sighed, deeply regretting that technology was not advanced enough. After a full hour, the 5 of them followed Luo Lai back with flushed faces. The 4 boys were scalded by the hot water, but Wanli Xiu was purely embarrassed. Although she knew that the current situation was not her problem, she still felt ashamed. As the daughter of the governor, she was so smelly in front of everyone. Even if there was a reason for it, it was still embarrassing. Fortunately, everyone is smelly with me. Wanli Xiu thought, and looked at Long Yusheng and the others from the corner of her eyes, and her heart was slightly comforted. Just as she was comforting herself. Ha 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 ha. Zhou Xiaoduo appeared at the right time, and he was arrogant and self-important. Xiu Er. Zhou Xiaoduo said proudly, you don't have to worry about it. Although you were all smelly just now, Xiu Er, your stench is completely different from theirs. Their stench is pure, but your stench still has some traces of cosmetics. It's slightly better than theirs and doesn't follow the conventional pattern. Zhou Xiaoduo, you bitch. Before he could finish, Wanli Xiu had already rushed over with a big knife, looking like she would not stop until she was dead. Zhou Xiaoduo let out a strange cry and left without saying a word. Zhou Xiaoduo did not dare to provoke a woman who was in a rage. Just like that, Zhou Xiaoduo was chased around second high 3 times by the angry Wanli Xiu. Wanli Xiu was exhausted, and only then did she sneak into the gravity room. What a scary mouth. Zhou Xiaoduo was still patting his chest when he entered the gravity room. Sigh, Xiu Er can't take a joke. Long Yusheng is going to suffer for the rest of his life. Zhou Xiaoduo still had a lingering fear, she's really too fierce. I'm really worried for him. On the other side, Wanli Xiu and Long Yusheng were fighting each other to consolidate their strength. Wanli Xiu was furious, and her fighting strength rose sharply. She was ruthless and did not leave any leeway. Long Yusheng and the other 3 men were all suppressed by the furious Wanli Xiu and beaten up. The 4 of them were completely helpless against a girl who did not care about her life. They could only passively defend and take the beating. Even if it was 4 against 1, they were still no match for her. Each of them cursed Zhou Xiaoduo thousands of times in their hearts. You fucking played cheap and aroused Wanli Xiu's anger, but all of us had to bear it. This bitch. Luo Lai's eyebrows danced as he watched from the side. They were all geniuses indeed. Even without Zhou Xiaoduo, this heaven-defying genius, just these 5 were enough to sweep the other schools. Luo Lai was also aware of the talent and hard work of these students. During the previous test, he also accompanied them throughout. Naturally, he knew that the real strength of these students had already reached the innate level. The reason why they had not broken through was that they were deliberately suppressing their breakthroughs, hoping to reach the maximum limit of their potential. However, including Zhou Xiaoduo, these 6 people were Qin Fangyang's personal students from the warrior class. Even if Luo Lai envied them, he could only watch helplessly. Chapter 310. But now that Qin Fangyang had suddenly left, only Luo Lai, who was most familiar with their strength, could be the head teacher. It was like a pie falling from the sky. Now, Wanli Xiu and the others were breaking through uncontrollably. Luo Lai was overjoyed, but he also had the thought of testing their current strength. After breaking through, their cultivation would improve and their strength would increase greatly. This was something that was set in stone, but he did not know to what extent it would increase. However, at this moment, he witnessed the battle atmosphere of these 5 people with his own eyes. Each of them was skilled in battle, and their awareness was sharp. This made Luo Lai happy and shocked. These people's skills and awareness have already reached the level of proficiency. They are extremely familiar with the application of battle techniques. What they lack is only the baptism of blood and the change of mentality to kill with their own hands. Not bad at all. It must have been hard on old Qin. How did he train such outstanding students? Luo Lai really admired Qin Fangyang this time. If you said that Zhou Xiaoduo was a pervert, it could be said that he was lucky and managed to catch up with them. But to catch up with 6 of them in one go, how was that different from a fantasy? It could only be said that Qin Fangyang was really capable. At the level of Wanli Xiao and the others, he could help them push their realms up. But in terms of battle experience and awareness, it was impossible to teach them. This kind of tacit defense and attack was definitely not something that could be learned in a classroom. He did not know that the battle experience of Long Yusheng and the others had nothing to do with Qin Fangyang. It was purely from Zhou Xiaoduo's beating. Zhou Xiaoduo had transferred the terror that Zhou Xiaonian had unleashed on him to Wanli Xiao and the others. With Zhou Xiaoduo's ability to attract hatred, as long as they gathered together, they would beat each other into a pulp. In addition, the 5 of them would definitely join forces to fight against Zhou Xiaoduo. After such a long time, it would be strange if they did not have a tacit understanding. After the battle had ended, Luo Lai asked patiently and in a friendly manner. All of you have broken through. Good, good. How many times have you suppressed your Jinyuan's restlessness? Luo Lai's smile was like a flower. At least 3 or 4 times. Teacher Luo put himself in other people's shoes. Back then, he had suppressed them once and had already been regarded as the best choice by the teachers. Of course, these children had performed much better than him back then, so of course, he had said it once or twice more. I should be 8 times. Long Yusheng replied uncertainly. Then, he scratched his head and said, I don't know if the last time I failed to suppress it counts. I did it 9 times. Wanli Xiao said. Me too, 9 times. Yu Moyan was very concise. 8 times. Li Zhongming sighed. He, I did it 10 times. Li Chenglong sighed in satisfaction. He had been back-to-back with Zhou Xiaoduo for a long time and had benefited from the Flaming Sun divine art many times. Therefore, his foundation was the thickest among the 5 of them. According to his self-assessment, he could have suppressed it 1 more time. In the end, these people's Jinyuan's restlessness had affected his own rhythm. In the end, all his efforts had been for naught. It was all Yu Moyan's fault. Why did he have to fart for no reason? Li Chenglong really wanted to beat Yu Moyan up now. 8 times. 9 times. 10 times. Luo Lai felt a little dizzy. For a moment, he did not dare to believe the numbers that his ears had heard. 8 times, 9 times, or even 10 times was an astonishing number. In second high. No, even in the entire Phoenix City, this had never happened before. Now, in front of him, there were actually 5 of them. No! How could there only be 5 of them? There was also that Zhou Xiaoduo. His strength was above the 5 people in front of him. He believed that the number of times he had suppressed it was more than 8 or 9 times. At the very least, it should be 10, 11, or even 12 times, right? Luo Lai was about to faint again, but this time, he was happy. These are all my students. Qin Fangyang, once you left this special honor to me. I, Luo Lai, will remember your kindness for the rest of my life. You must remember this. Luo Lai lowered his voice and solemnly reminded, even if you go to the High Martial Arts Institute in the future, when someone asks about this, you can only say that it was 2 or 3 times. Do you understand? Why? Yu Moyan said, isn't it said that the higher one's aptitude, the higher the inclination of resources one receives? Luo Lai laughed bitterly, this sentence itself is not wrong. In reality, the treatment is indeed so. But astral souls humans, the problem of having good and bad people mixed together has never changed since ancient times. People who are jealous of talent and ability are everywhere. Some people, even if the flood is overflowing and the continent is sinking, in their eyes, they can only see their own interests. And some people, even if the continent is going to fall tomorrow, they still want to trample on the geniuses who are stronger than them, or even destroy them. Luo Lai said desolately, some people, even after learning a lot of skills, betrayed the continent early on for their own interests. They became the UMNO Alliance's spies. Sometimes, when one's aptitude is high and has great potential, in the eyes of others, it is just a stumbling block, or an obstacle that prevents one from moving forward. Hiding one's strength is the way to live peacefully in the world. If it isn't someone you trust the most, never reveal your true strength. This world is far more complicated than you think, much more complicated, to the point that you can't even imagine. Luo Lai said earnestly, "It's okay that you don't understand now. But you must remember, I will not harm you. You must do as I say, understand? When you are weak, protecting your own life is the most important thing. We will remember. Teacher Luo." Just as Luo Lai said, although they did not understand now, they still remembered this deeply. However, they firmly branded this warning in the depths of their hearts, and they absolutely couldn't easily expose their natural talent and reserves. Now, each of you use the astral soul's jade to enrich yourselves. Stabilize your current realm. Although the cultivation of these little guys had completely stabilized now, Luo Lai still felt that if it could be stabilized, it would be better. As for Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was already in the gravity room, Luo Lai felt that he did not need to worry about him. In the gravity room, Zhuo Xiaoduo was sweating profusely. This was the first time he was training in a 50x gravity room with 30,000 Jin on each arm. As the door of the gravity room closed, Zhuo Xiaoduo immediately felt that both his arms were about to hit the ground. Even if he used all his strength, he still could not move them. The only thing he could do now was to slowly raise his arms. He raised them up and let all the strength and gravity act on his entire body. After that, he maintained his current posture, keeping his body upright. His legs were naturally planted, and his back was perfectly straight. He used his entire body to evenly share the pressure. Under the effect of 50 times the gravity, he had to bear 60,000 Jin of weight. After only 1 minute, he was already sweating profusely, and it was difficult for him to cope. However, he tried his best to regulate his breathing. His gaze was unprecedentedly firm as he endured the mountain-like gravity. The true yuan in his body circulated crazily, and the dragon blood-flying dagger and the astral soul's jade, which he had placed earlier, continuously poured energy into his meridians. This was the only way to replenish his energy. Zhuo Xiaoduo did not use the Flaming Sun Sutra. Right now, he was purely relying on his physical body to endure. What he needed to urgently improve now was the strength of his physical body. Otherwise, his Universe Sun Moon 99 Kitty Hammer would not be able to be used for a very, very long time. Zhuo Xiaoduo's arms seemed to be maintaining a constant posture, but his arms were already trembling slightly. However, he did not seem to feel it at all. Any kind of strength training could not be completed in a day, and the body could not be strengthened in a day. Right now, he just wanted to accumulate it bit by bit. Zhuo Xiaoduo was incomparably grateful for his previous inertia. Although he had not entered the gravity chamber after the war, he had always carried a weight of 60,000 kilograms on his body, regardless of whether he was eating or sleeping. Even at the old principal's funeral, during the first 7 soul nights, Zhuo Xiaoduo had always carried a weight of 60,000 kilograms on his body. He knew that the old principal would not blame him. The old principal would only be gratified to see such effort. If it had not been for the buffer of a few days, he would have been pressed to the ground by this terrifying pressure the moment he entered the gravity chamber. I will fulfill the old principal's wishes one by one. Teacher Qin will not be the only one who will do it. I will do it too. Zhuo Xiaoduo silently made up his mind. If the old principal wants to be number 1 in the Central Plains, then I must get it. If the old principal wants to see second highest students become number 1 in the world, then I must seize that number 1. This is the goal I need to achieve in the near future. Moreover, he would resolutely and steadily walk down this path. As for the third, it was naturally Qin Fangyang, a selfless mentor and helpful friend. Zhuo Xiaoduo respected and was grateful to these 3 people from the bottom of his heart. It was these three people who were filled with warmth, unspoken love, righteousness, and an awe-inspiring aura. They made Zhou Xiaoduo, a rebellious, crafty, and eccentric young man, who was bent on stepping on the heterodox path, and possessed a demonic heart, maintain the most glorious goal from beginning to end. The most correct direction, a full 4.5 hours. Even Hu Ruoyan, who had specially come to inform him, had been waiting outside for 2.5 hours. Zhou Xiaoduo did not know anything about the outside world. Every time he could no longer hold on, every time his bones creaked, Zhou Xiaoduo would circulate the Flaming Sun Sutra and let it circulate in his body for 99 cycles. He used the Flaming Sun Sutra to increase his body's strength and recover some of his fatigue. Then, he would stop the Flaming Sun Sutra and continue to use his body to endure. This cycle was to train his body to the greatest extent, so that he could reach a higher level in the shortest time possible. I want my 99-cat hammer to be like a piece of grass in my hands. I'll hit wherever I want to hit. In the future, I'll beat people to death as I wish, but I'll also want my enemies' spatial rings and wealth. I must not smash them. It would be a pity and a waste if I smash them all. I want to have both the fish and the bear's paw. Is that wrong? In order to achieve this goal, I'll do it even if I have to die of exhaustion. Millions of pounds will be like a piece of grass in my hands, dancing lightly. Zhou Xiaoduo made a great wish in his heart. His eyes shone with a golden light as he looked forward to the day when his sleeves would be filled with gold. That day, when he saw so many spatial ring fragments, Zhou Xiaoduo's heart almost broke. He really didn't want to experience such a cruel scene again. Now, I finally know how important perfect control is. No wonder all the experts are so particular about perfect control. It's the basic operation of a miser. Zhou Xiaoduo felt that he finally understood, all the experts were misers. Since they're so greedy, why can't I make a fortune while I'm at it? Based on this, Zhou Xiaoduo became more and more confident. He continued until the last moment. Zhou Xiaoduo's entire body was drenched in sweat, almost turning him into a mummy. Only then did he muster up his remaining courage and circulate the Flaming Sun Sutra that was almost exhausted. He supported himself to the door, opened it, and walked out. Just as he walked out of the room, he fell to the ground with a plop. He almost fainted and gasped for breath. Hu Ruoyan's heartbroken voice sounded, "Why are you so tired? Quick! Bring a bowl of water." Then, she stuffed an elixir into his mouth. She was extremely gentle. Zhou Xiaoduo felt sad and disappointed, but also gentle and grateful. He was sad and disappointed. Teacher Qin Fongyang, who would drag him by the hair every time he crawled out from exhaustion, didn't appear this time. He was gentle and grateful because of Teacher Hu Ruoyan's meticulous care and concern. It filled his heart with warmth and moved him. "I'm fine." Zhou Xiaoduo drank a big bowl of water and sat up with support. He chuckled, "I'm just a little tired from training. I'll be fine after some rest. Really, I'll be fine after a while." Hu Ruoyan was still full of concern. At the side, Long Yusheng and the others were a little disappointed when they saw this scene. Now, the teacher's care was like a spring breeze, but they felt that something was missing. Teacher Qin, who mingled with the students and looked very rough. He kicked Zhou Xiaoduo here and there, and when he saw his students' achievements, he happily kicked Zhou Xiaoduo like a shuttlecock. Has he really left us? The Central Plains Martial Arts School ranking competition. Hu Ruoyan briefly explained the notice she brought. Originally, the 6 of you were qualified to graduate directly. But before the old principal died, he appointed you 6 to form a team and bring back the honor that the old principal had been looking forward to for decades for second high. The martial arts school ranking competition is less than a month away. I hope you don't slack off during this month and face this battle in your best condition. Hu Ruoyan said. We won't disappoint the old principal. Zhou Xiaoduo raised his head and said in a sonorous voice. Ever since the old principal established second high, He started to participate in the martial arts school ranking competition 60 years ago. In the beginning, he was outside the top 1,000, but in recent years, he could directly break into the top 10. Especially since the year before last, he broke into the top 10 for the first time in history. For 2 consecutive years, he was ranked 9th. As for where you can get this year, it depends on your performance. Hu Ruoyan's voice was heavy. She said softly, "Don't let us down, but don't be too stressed. Just do your best." "Yes." "Understood." The 6 people answered in unison. "The rest is up to you. You can choose your own captain and vice-captain, and then submit the name list." Hu Ruoyan smiled gently. "It's good to improve your cultivation and completely transform your combat power into your own, but don't practice too hard. You should know that more haste, less speed. If you hurt your origin, it's not a joke." As she spoke, she couldn't help but step forward. She habitually tidied Zhuoxiaoduo's lapel and smoothed his wet hair. She smiled and said, "Good luck." Then she turned around and left. Zhuoxiaoduo smiled foolishly. Teacher who still regarded me as the one who had stayed back for 5 years. Even the way she smoothed my hair was the same as before. Wanli Xiao and the others looked at Zhuoxiaoduo and couldn't help but feel jealous. This guy. Why should he be treated better than us? This guy is obviously so cheap, but the gentle teacher who is so nice to him. This chapter has 5,000 words, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 311. You can discuss among yourselves. Since school is over, take your time to discuss. Luo Lai laughed. "Zhuoxiaoduo, I'm your new form teacher." "Hee, we're old acquaintances." Teacher Luo's attitude was a little cautious. It even sounded like he was trying to flatter Xiao. He was really worried that Zhuoxiaoduo would not accept him as his teacher. This kid was not only a super genius, but he was also a troublemaker. Now, the entire 9th class followed his lead. Moreover, this kid had the best relationship with Qin Fangyang. If this kid took the lead to cause trouble, as the form teacher, he would have to put in a lot of effort. The results would definitely not be good. "Hello, Teacher Luo." Zhuoxiaoduo bowed respectfully and waved his hand. "Kids. Here." Wanli Xiao and the other 4 replied in unison. "Follow this boss to school." "Oh yeah." "Oh." The 6 of them formed a whirlwind and rolled out of the school together. Luo Lai sighed behind them. He could clearly feel the estrangement between him and Zhuoxiaoduo and the others. Or rather, the children could accept him as their form teacher and give him a basic polite attitude. However, when it came to replacing Qin Fangyang's position in their hearts, he could forget about it. Thinking about it was just wishful thinking. There's still a long way to go. Luo Lai muttered. "Teacher Luo, what's wrong? Do you have any ideas?" Hu Ruoyan asked behind him. "What ideas can I have? Old Qin's image in the hearts of these children is unshakable. I'll do my best and not think about changing anything." Luo Lai admitted honestly. He was a little disappointed. Hu Ruoyan smiled. "Do you think that teacher Qin Fangyang's peach is so easy to pick? Or do you think that you're the luckiest person in the whole school? In fact, everyone knows that the 9th class has been transformed into a class for geniuses by teacher Qin Fangyang. However, everyone is not that interested. What do you think is the reason?" "Why?" "That's right. We don't have Qin Fangyang's charisma, nor are we like teacher Qin Fangyang, who is willing to sacrifice everything for his students. If he can't even achieve these 2 things, then there's no need to talk about anything else. Not to mention, he still has the astonishing battle prowess to look down on the entire Phoenix City. Do you understand now? The reason why no one wants to compete is not because they are not strong enough, or because they are not familiar with teacher Qin, or because they have not interacted with Zhuo and the others. These are not enough advantages. Hu Ruoyan said leisurely, now that you've taken over the position of head teacher, it's only a month away from graduation. How meaningful can it be? At most, she's just like a kindergarten teacher, helping Qin Fangyang to keep an eye on the children so they don't cause trouble. When these kids graduate, the only teacher they will acknowledge will still be Qin Fangyang and no one else. Their respect for you is just superficial. Let's take a step back. If that's not the case, there are so many young geniuses. How would you have the authority to be their teacher? Just based on Zhuo's respectful attitude towards me, do you think I, Hu Ruoyan, can't compete with you? Hu Ruoyan laughed loudly. Teacher Luo, good luck. Before she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Luo Lai was stunned at first. Then, his face turned red and he said angrily, I'll resign tomorrow. It's too late. Hu Ruoyan's voice came from afar, everyone knows about your threats and gifts. You shamelessly got this position. Now you want to resign. Is that even possible? Luo Lai was stunned. Zhuo and the others left the school. Should we find a place to discuss the future? Why don't we go to Phoenix Turning Around? Yu Moyan suggested. The five of them were stunned when they heard this. There's no need to go to Phoenix Turning Around. Li Chenglong smiled bitterly, to disturb the old principal's peace for such a small matter. Besides, we don't have any honor now. If we go and discuss, what if we don't get anything? We'll be embarrassed. We have to embarrass the old principal in the underworld with us. Well, let's just find a place. It's just a matter of a few words. Zhuo rolled his eyes. Oh right, we haven't had a meal together yet. Let's do it today. Li Chenglong will treat everyone. Those who agree, please clap. Clap 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 clap. Li Chenglong was stunned. When did I say I'm treating everyone? Everyone voted to resolve it. It's you. Let's go. The 6 young men and women surrounded Li Chenglong, who was spitting saliva all the way. They laughed and joked as they walked away. Everyone found a random restaurant, but they did not hold back at all when they ordered a table full of dishes. Zhuo took out his phone and asked for leave. It's a class reunion today. I won't be home for dinner. Zhuo Xiaoyan said something on the other end and Zhuo hung up, looking embarrassed. Yo, someone's been criticized. Li Chenglong gloated. What do you know? My status in my family is so high that you can't imagine it. Zhuo said smugly. Tisk. 5 middle fingers. Let's discuss the candidates for the captain and vice-captain. I'll definitely be the captain. Who agrees and who disagrees? Zhuo looked around disdainfully. No objections. Vice-captain, I suggest Swollen. Who agrees and who disagrees? No objections. End of meeting. Clap. Clap 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 clap. Li Chenglong was anxious. What about the tactical deployment? Zhuo took a mouthful of food and said slowly, tactical deployment? This should be your overall plan, but I don't think it's necessary. My plan is like this. The 5 of them put down their chopsticks and listened quietly to Zhuo's big plan. This time, 1,500 schools in the Central Plains will compete together. Those who are eliminated in the first round will naturally go home. Therefore, the battle to enter the 750th place is basically a free pass. We were ranked 9th in the previous tournament, so we're definitely a seeded team. I reckon that no matter which school we face in the first round, we only need one person to defeat them. Then, in the battle from 750 to 375 schools, the second person will be changed, but one person will still be able to defeat them. In the battle from 180 schools, the third person will be sent, and one person will be able to defeat them. In the battle from 90 schools, the fourth person will be sent, and one person will be able to defeat them. In the battle from 45 schools, one person will be sent, and one person will be able to defeat them. In the battle for the top 20 schools, the sixth person will be sent and still one person will be able to defeat them. In other words, each person will be in charge of one school and take turns to do it. There is no need for additional planning. However, the first few schools must be defeated in one go. There must be no entanglement. There will be no elimination battles, and all of them will be sent straight. Zhou Xiaoduo took it for granted and said arrogantly, "How simple." The other 5 people were silent for a long time without saying a word. Big brother, are you treating the other schools as clay chickens and pottery dogs? Are there no geniuses in the entire Central Plains? Aren't you being too confident? Even if the first, second, or even third battle may be lucky and encounter a weak opponent, the later opponents are bound to be stronger. Where did you get the confidence to defeat all 6 battles by yourself? After entering the top 20, the situation can no longer be taken lightly. After all, there will be cross battles, which is to say, fight in pairs. First, 10 winners will be determined, and the remaining 10 will fight. In this battle, only 5 will be eliminated. 15 schools will be left. The top 7 of the 15 teams will be selected, and the remaining 8 teams will fight in pairs to choose the top 4. 4 will be eliminated, and 11 will be left. Zhou Xiaoduo had a headache as he spoke. Who the hell made this rule? Why is it so roundabout? 11 schools will be selected for the top 5, and 1 will be given a bye. The remaining 5 schools will fight for 3 places with a bye. That will be the final 8. After entering the top 8. It's not the top 4, semi-finals, or finals, but another cross battle. The winner only has to fight in 2 battles. The loser has to fight in 3 battles, and only the last 2 places in the top 8 will be eliminated. Top 6. Zhou Xiaoduo's mouth was dry, and he kept cursing. This kind of competition rule is simply stupid. It's not good to decide the winner and loser in one battle. The winner stays, and the loser scrums. Round after round, isn't it too troublesome? This is for the sake of fairness. For example, 2 schools originally have the potential to compete for the first place, but if one school is eliminated in the first round of drawing lots, and the eliminated school clearly has the strength to be in the top 3, it's really unfair. Li Chenglong said, that's why there is such a rule. Isn't luck a part of strength? In short, it's so annoying. Zhou Xiaoduo said irritably, my opinion is that we will only send one person in each round of battle. He will defeat all the opponents and be the first to qualify. Everything will be fine. The deployment is complete. Does anyone have any objections? Yes. Li Chenglong frowned and said, this arrangement is a little too careless. Just now, Boss Sua also said that luck is also a part of one's strength. If we are blindly careless and encounter a tyrannical academy, there will be no way to recover from our defeat. We really don't have overwhelming strength. The Central Plains is vast, and there are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers. There are countless ancient martial arts families and geniuses. Maybe Zui is invincible among your peers, but the 5 of us don't have the confidence to look down on everyone. If you can't do it, I'll do it. Zhou Xiaoduo squinted and said, and? What do you mean by the 5 of you don't have the confidence? I don't want to hear this a second time. Let me tell you, for the next month, each and every one of you will have to practice the martial arts of your respective families and schools. If you're really unlucky and meet someone you can't match, I won't be so inhumane to blame you. I'll just fill in the gaps. But if you meet someone you can handle, and still lose. Zhou Xiaoduo snorted coldly, I'll let you know what it means to be beaten up by society. The 5 of them shuddered at the same time. Don't worry, boss. We'll definitely complete the task. Chapter 312. The subsequent training of the 6 of them shocked the entire school. In the eyes of both the teachers and the students, there was only one feeling, appalling and unbearable to look at. Just the news of the first day of training made Li Changjiang fly into a rage. Not to mention anything else, on the first day of the battle practice, the 6 of them directly destroyed all the martial arts training fields in the school. Pits could be seen everywhere, easily several meters deep. Even the high platform in the middle of the martial arts training field, where the teachers were supervising the students' training, was kicked away by Li Chenglong and Li Changming. Li Changming dodged around the platform, and Li Chenglong was furious. He felt that the platform was a hindrance, so he lost his temper and kicked up the platform, along with the 4 teachers on it, flew out together. "All of you, get out of here and train." Li Changjiang's roar was earth-shattering. "Are you rebelling? Is this training or tearing down the school? Li Chenglong, call your parents to the school tomorrow. Compensate. All of you, get out of here and train." Li Changjiang was mad. Qin Fangyang had just left, and it had only been a few days. Were these guys going to turn the world upside down? And that Luo Lai, were you there to be a teacher or to be a bootlicker? After destroying the martial arts training field, Luo Lai actually went over and asked, "Is your leg okay?" What the hell was this? He was so angry that his liver hurt. Zhou Xiaoduo and the others, who had been yelled at, obediently followed Luo Lai out of the city for training. Li Changjiang looked at the name list in the principal's office, and his head hurt. Just a name list? Is there a need to make a list? Captains Zhou Xiaoduo, Vice Captain Li Chenglong, team members Long Yusheng, Wan Li Xiu, Yu Moyan, and Li Changming. Isn't this the configuration all along? Hu Ruoyan, who was beside him, said, "It has always been like this. Do we have to change it? What about the tactics? Where's the deployment?" Li Changjiang pointed at the list. "What about the strategy and tactics?" Cough cough. Hu Ruoyan coughed. "They're saying that they're going to directly sweep through. Only one person will be sent out in each battle, and they'll break through." Cough cough. Arrogant. Li Changjiang flew into a rage. Who do they think they are? How dare you look down on the heroes of the world? It had to be said that Headmaster Li was furious. Previously, although the old principal didn't care about anything, she was still there to support him. Now that the old principal was gone, Li Changjiang immediately felt that his responsibility had doubled. It had only been a few days, but he had already become much more haggard. Sadness, reluctance, pain, and a mountain of things pressed down on him. Li Changjiang was like a volcano on the verge of eruption. Hu Ruoyan stepped forward and gently massaged her husband's temples. "Changjiang, don't give yourself too much pressure. Don't worry. They're not children who don't know what to do. Since they dared to come up with such a strategy, they must be confident. Especially that child, Xiao Duo, he definitely won't let the old principal down." Hu Ruoyan said softly, "What you need to do now is to relax yourself. The old principal has been working for his whole life, and that's why he's able to do so as if it's nothing. Even if you work yourself to death, you definitely won't be able to reach the old principal's level in a short time. Patience. Take it slow and don't think too far ahead. For the time being, just look at what's in front of us and deal with it one by one. We only need to do the best we can for each and every one of them. The most important thing is to act according to our capabilities. Don't try to compare yourself to the old principal. At least, it's impossible in a short time." Hu Ruoyan said sadly, "A legend like the old principal. There aren't many people in the entire continent. But as long as you do well, I believe that one day, you'll definitely be able to reach that level. I'll help you." Li Changjiang's stiff body slowly relaxed. Finally, he slumped into the chair and muttered, "When the old principal was here, I really didn't feel that these things were so difficult. But now, it's mainly the feeling of suddenly losing your backbone. Actually, you've already done very well in these matters." Hu Ruoyan comforted him, you're the successor principal of second middle school who was recognized by the old principal. The old principal wouldn't be wrong. Believe in the old principal's judgment, and even more so, believe in your own ability. Yes. This time, going out for the trial could be said to be completely worry-free. Well, the main thing was that the UMNO Alliance people were either dead or gone. There wasn't a single person from the UMNO Alliance in the territory of Phoenix City. Of course, they could be at ease and be bold. At least, Zhou Xiaoduo and the rest were really at ease. They all rushed out happily. They didn't even have to search for spiritual medicine resources. They just had to find suitable star beasts to battle. With their current level, they swept through the places that the innate realm could enter. Then, they entered the area that only the embryonic breathing realm could enter. Nothing was forbidden, and there were few who could match them. Probably because they were too unhindered, the 6 of them became bolder and bolder. After that, they even rushed into the Origin Elixir realm trial area and fought there for a whole day. In the end, they came out with hundreds of star beast corpses and bruises all over their bodies. Awesome! The 6 of them looked up to the sky and roared. Luo Lai, who had been following them, was in a daze. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. The trial area for the Origin Elixir realm could no longer be considered a trial area. At least for the students in the school, it was a forbidden area. Even the Origin Elixir realm experts could only guarantee their own safety in that area. However, under the leadership of Zhou Xiaoduo, Wanli Xiu, and the rest swept through the outer area of the trial area for the Origin Elixir realm. They even worked together to kill more than 100 star beasts. As the battle continued, although Long Yusheng and the rest still couldn't defeat the star beasts in the beginning stage of the Origin Elixir realm on their own, working together was more than enough to protect themselves. As for Zhou Xiaoduo, Luo Lai felt that this guy was a mystery. For this competition, Zhou Xiaoduo purposely gave himself the nickname of Iron Fist Prince. Zhou Xiaoduo's reason was very reasonable. Since number 1 high school has a blue sword prince, number 2 high school will also have a famous prince. I will be called Iron Fist Prince. When he heard this nickname, even Luo Lai's legs cramped up. Iron Fist Prince, Zhou Xiaoduo. Have you practiced martial arts before? What kind of martial arts are you talking about? As the homeroom teacher and Qin Fangyang's old friend, Luo Lai knew Zhou Xiaoduo's true strength very well. On the surface, Zhou Xiaoduo was good at palm techniques, leg techniques, and footwork. However, in reality, Zhou Xiaoduo was better at using hidden weapons. However, his real trump card was his sword techniques. He even had a sword that could be called a divine weapon. A guy like that actually dares to call himself the Iron Fist Prince, hiding all his abilities. How cunning are you? Layer by layer, it was all a mystery. In the future, when I meet Zhou Xiaoduo's opponents, especially those who are familiar with their opponent's information, I will be doubting my life. Luo Lai sighed deeply. On the second day of the trial, Zhou Xiaoduo came up with another idea. I will enter the primordial elixir area by myself. Let them go back to the embryonic breathing training area by themselves. With me following, their sense of danger will not be strong. It will be difficult for them to unleash their potential. I will also have to take care of them. It is not suitable. Luo Lai thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Zhou Xiaoduo's suggestion was very reasonable. However, the problem that followed was that there were not enough teachers to take care of both sides. Luo Lai could only ask Hu Ruoyan for external help to prevent any accidents. After returning to the embryonic breathing training area with Long Yusheng and the rest, Long Yusheng and the rest began to strongly request to go alone. Luo Lai only pondered for a moment before agreeing to it. Zhou Xiaoduo's combat power was far superior to Long Yusheng and the rest. Hence, Luo Lai agreed to let him train in the primordial elixir training area. Ultimately, it was still because his personal power was sufficient. Similarly, Long Yusheng and the rest's combat power was tyrannical. It was difficult to hurt Long Yusheng and the rest with just the embryonic breathing realm star beasts. It should be known that if the combat power of the star beasts was similar to the human realm, then the star beasts' combat power would be higher than the human. Luo Lai, who had taught for many years, naturally knew this clearly. Previously, he had witnessed Long Yusheng and the rest persevering under the attacks of the star beasts and honing their own martial arts techniques. He had also slowly discovered battle techniques that were more compatible with their own characteristics. These were all great gains. Furthermore, these little guys had obviously learned many martial arts techniques and even martial arts techniques in private. However, as they had just learned them and were not familiar with them, they could use the star beasts to hone their skills. After all, actual combat was the best way to hone one's martial arts techniques. Although there was no risk, it was within a controllable range. Martial arts are only taught when one enters the innate realm. Luo Lai sighed in his heart. Luo Lai focused on Long Yusheng and the rest of the 5 people. After watching for a long time, he saw that the few of them had gradually progressed from strangers to beginners. He could not help but secretly nod his head. This group of little guys not only practiced hard when they went out for training, but also when they returned home at night. Moreover, the martial arts techniques that these few people practiced were all unique in their own ways. They were not inferior to the high-level martial arts techniques that were collected by the second high school martial arts school. Among them, Li Zhangming's Dream Divine technique was especially exquisite. It had its own system and style. For example, Long Yusheng, Wanli Xiu, Li Chenglong, and the rest all had their own unique ways. Among them, only Yu Moyan's performance was slightly mediocre. The mediocre here did not mean that the person was mediocre, but that the martial arts techniques that he practiced were mediocre. Luo Lai looked at Yu Moyan's internal, external, and light body techniques again and again. He touched his chin and pondered. Yu Moyan, come to school early tomorrow morning. I will apply and bring you to the pavilion of martial arts. You can go in and pick out the martial arts that are more suitable for you. Luo Lai had obviously made up his mind to help Yu Moyan make up for this shortcoming. Yu Moyan was dazed for a second and then showed gratitude on his face. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Luo. On the other side, Zhou Xiaoduo was fighting fiercely in the trial area of the inner core stage. As a person, he would fight if he could and run if he could not win. He would go to other places to fight and then come back to fight. If he still could not win, he would run again. A saber-winged tiger in the middle stage of the inner core stage had been annoyed by him. It wanted to kill him directly, but it could not. It wanted to run away, but it could not. Even if it wanted to hide, it could not. If it ran away without caring about anything, Zhou Xiaoduo, the bad guy, would go after the 4 tiger cubs. The big tiger could not go far with the tiger cubs. If it wanted to take them away in one go, it would be attacked by Zhou Xiaoduo. Therefore, it could only stay and wait for Zhou Xiaoduo to harass it again and again. The saber-toothed tiger was so angry that it kept roaring. This 2-legged beast was so annoying. How could a human be so despicable? When it was time to leave, the saber-winged tiger was so tired that it could not be angry anymore. It lay on the ground and stuck out its tongue like a big dog. Zhou Xiaoduo waved goodbye from the other side. Let's go, big tiger. I will come and see you tomorrow. See your sister. Seeing that Zhou Xiaoduo had finally left, the big tiger regained its strength and immediately went back to its nest. It picked up 2 tiger cubs in its mouth, carried the other 2 on its back, and carried them with its wings. And left quickly. It was better to go and find their father. Although that guy made the big tiger so angry that it separated the 2 places, it seemed that it could not live without him. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.